we may see the challenge in every opportunity, but we often forget that there is success hiding behind every challenge. During our dark times, we may see the challenge in every opportunity, but we often forget that there is success hiding behind every challenge.
Beautiful morning. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV 47. As we say, it is the home of Untold Story, and this is the morning show, Morning Cafe. It is always good doing this with you every week. And I mean, this is a Monday, and we're looking forward to an incredible week ahead. And I'm here, as always, to make sure that it kickstarts on a good note. Let's take a look at what is happening in the world of news as we keep you posted, update you. Importantly, we also value your feedback. We'd love to hear what is happening around you. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela and at TV47KE. Those are our Twitter handles. You can always drop your comments. We get to sample them as we continue with the broadcast. So much is happening. I mean, in as much as we say that, well, the restrictions are here, or the containment measures are on board, so much is happening in the world of politics. I mean, everything is happening across the social lives and all that. And so today, we do not fail to speak matters politics. We just look at what it is that is playing out there underneath. I mean, with photos making rounds, probably sending messages of what is being crafted for 2022. And also with that excitement or desire to get to know what is the fate of the BBI. We discuss all these under utterances of different politicians. The Mount Kenya region now declaring their own interest, that is on the Tanga side, saying that, well, if we are to come together and back you, Mr. Deputy President, then this is what it is that we expect. I mean, this was bound to happen, but why at this point in time? That's what we'll be discussing this morning, and so much more. So karibu sana. We welcome your feedback, like I have said, and I'll be sampling them as we proceed with the broadcast. My name is Linda_Lela. The broadcast begins right now, and we first take a look at what the newspapers have in store. As I mean, we proceed to the next segment or the next session altogether once we get a hold of our guests this morning, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni and Communications Advisor Dr. Barrack Muluka will be joining us for that. And then later on, we discuss matters, persons with disabilities and how we get to support them, how we get to strengthen them at this point in time, especially on matters COVID-19. That is towards the last lapse of the program from 8 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. Let's first look at the People Daily. At the Daily Nation, and the front page of the Daily Nation, Sharon Obado goes on trial in July. That's Sharon, yes, Obado goes on trial in July, and that's a story captured on page 8. Still in search for justice for Sharon. So much has been happening. There's been so much silence equally, and many asking just what played out in terms of getting justice. Most of these heinous acts that have played out, people being murdered. I mean, it's not clear who does such things, and it vanishes in thin air, is something that needs to be discouraged. So we'll be following up on that to keep you up to speed. Police warning, a police check curfew nightmare, traffic management to be reviewed. A story captured on the back page of the Daily Nation. You are privy to what it is that played out along Thika Road. That should be on Saturday night. Most of the people had to spend hours and hours, and some of them actually sleeping on the road because, it wasn't easy with them, with the boundaries that were set on board by the policemen because of the traffic police, because they had flouted the rules. We all are privy to the fact that, by 8, you're not supposed to be out, but then most of the Kenyans were caught on traffic. Such has always been the case for quite a while now, but it looks like, the forces are now out to make sure that such is not going to be the case. So in most cases, prepare yourself early enough so that you're not caught on this. And a different story altogether on a matters survey that has been released by InfoTrack says, where is Kenya headed? 3 in 5 Kenyans think that the country is headed in the wrong direction, citing the high cost of living, unemployment, and how the government has handled the COVID-19 pandemic. This is according to an opinion poll conducted by InfoTrack, as I have said, and it's a story captured on page 12. We'll be looking at that as we proceed. Yes, it's all in black and white that things are not as rosy in the country. Leaders form 11-member team to work out details of the agreement. What agreement are we looking at? 2022 poll strategies, and members of parliament ignite talks to craft route to deal. On Friday and Saturday, some 48 lawmakers, mostly from Mount Kenya and Rift Valley regions, were out there, and they met at the home of Madeira legislator, that is Rigathi Gachagua, to discuss economic and political demands they once agreed with DP William Ruto. A story captured on page 7. This is what will be driving our conversation this morning, so make sure that you are part and parcel of it. As private schools cry foul, PS1 blames the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has denied engaging in manipulation of the KCPE results in favor of public primary schools. And even as owners of private academies raised questions over the sudden dip in performance of their institutions, private schools have for decades produced the bulk of top students in national exams, but public institutions turned the tables on them in the last year's KCPE results. And a story captured on page 10. Still, of course, looking at what played out and the results and how quick they were marked. And I mean, the top students, even as they find themselves into their respective schools of choice, which is not what will play out in totality. There could be some changes. In most cases, it's not like you will get that chance to go to the school that you chose. And yes, on matters Olympics, and Kenya's Olympic champion and world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge crossed the finish line to win the NM Marathon Mission race at the 20 airport in Utrecht, the Netherlands. That was yesterday. A story captured on page 40. Yesterday is a Sunday. And I mean, quite an incredible win right there, even as we look forward for the Olympics that are slated or are set to happen somewhere in July, that is from the 23rd and 24th. Yes, we'll be following up on the same also on our sports desk to keep you up to speed. Congratulations to Eliud. And another story of triumph, a Tamalaki boy with indomitable spirit. He spent 50 days in hospital after cheating death, that is in a car accident, and never stepped in class, that is since June 2020, but went on to score 391 marks in KCPE. Like I have said, we're still looking at the gains and the problems that have played out in the past KCPE examinations and the results. And I mean, this is one that needs to certainly be celebrated. And on matters COVID-19, some 100,000 vials to get waste. Kenya estimates 10% vaccine wastage amid biting shortage, and wastage may occur when a closed vaccine cannot be used, primarily due to ineffective temperature control, that is during storage. A story captured on page 4. We all know what needs to happen, that even when probably one is open, then I mean, it should be used like immediately, as opposed to it being kept somewhere. So the storage purposes, something in a question. We certainly hope that this is not going to play out, or the numbers are not going to be as big. And here we are, the People Daily. Caught in curfew crackdown, hundreds of motorists spent Saturday night in the cold after police officers barricaded roads to rein in curfew breakers. Law enforcers vowed regular action despite the inconveniences. A story captured on page 7. We'll look at that later on. Mount Kenya MPs list demands to back Ruto. More or less the same stories as captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. 60 leaders from the region have formed 2 committees to steer the negotiations around the economy and 2022 positions. A story captured on page 4, and we discuss that as we proceed. Why Kenyans feel country is going in wrong direction, also that survey by InfoTrack, and we'll be looking at more on what has been captured on the Standard newspaper, even as we proceed with the broadcast, just to keep you up to speed in regards to all this, and that should be alongside the guests of the day. And before we get to open that, it's acting up for a moment, but then again, I'm sure we'll be having that. If not that, then the hard copies will be here with us, and we'll definitely get a hold of the same. So away from it, let's briefly look at what the roads look like. I just realized that in such early mornings, traffic is not as bad as it is at around 8 there. So maybe later on we'll also be looking at what is happening on the roads. But as of now, as you can see, even first glimpse, you realize that really there's not much cause for alarm, much as there's some tenets of traffic in some places. Imara Daima, this is Mombasa Road. Yes, you find that there's some bits of traffic, as you can see right there, and some roadworks that are ongoing there probably could be informing this traffic, and also that connection from Airport Road and coming to this other side is what could be informing this. But going down, it eases up. As you can see, it's not badly off, as has been the case for quite a while. And Mombasa Road all the way to Capital Center, as you can see here, is well, not so bad. If there's traffic, then it is evidently moving. And down to this other side, the Southern Bypass, is also much of an ease, as always has been. And coming to a different direction altogether, Langata Road, roadwork still ongoing, but traffic is not bad along Langata Road, and connecting to these other sides of Bagadi also, not much of traffic. And West's Sherry, let's look at this other side and get ourselves to Bunyala Road, also not much of traffic, as you can see somewhere around there. And these are the key roads. Ngong Road is pretty much of an ease this morning. All this is Ngong Road going all the way down to the city and away from the city. Valley Road is also looking good. Dennis Pritt Road is more of an ease this morning. And let's look at a different road altogether just to see whether there's anywhere that we should be worried about. Waiyaki Way all the way down coming to these sides where you connect to Chiromo is as good as you can see right there. So not much of traffic, roadwork still ongoing, but everything is all smooth on these roads. James Gishuru is also not looking bad this morning. Same applies to the likes of Gitanga Road. All that direction is not as bad. Parklands, around Parklands and Westlands, pretty much of an ease this morning. No cause for alarm. This is Thika Road on this other side, which is also not looking so bad this early morning. So in case of anything, I'll be here to keep you posted. As expected, the Northern Bypass, the Eastern Bypass, Runda, Limuru Road, all looking rosy this morning. So make sure that you step out of the house as early as now to avoid any negative occurrences or a scenario where you're going to run late. Now let's look at what my team has prepared. The Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government now says that it has noted that compliance to the stipulated COVID-19 containment measures is below 50% in Nairobi metropolitan area. So this comes after thousands of motorists were caught in a traffic snarl-up past curfew hours as police mounted roadblocks in major roads to enforce the 8 p.m. curfew in Nairobi. That is Saturday evening.
Moments after 8 p.m. on Saturday night, social media was awash with images and amateur videos of hundreds of Nairobi motorists stuck in traffic as police officers mounted roadblocks on major roads to enforce the 8 p.m. curfew in the capital. The Kasupa Highway ostensibly bore the brunt of this police operation. Those caught up in the snarl-up retorted to engaging the police officers through blaring sirens and horns, but all fell into deaf ears. The police were adamant that the motorists would spend in the cold until 4 a.m. when the curfew hours elapsed. Eventually, they were released to go home after hours of uncertainty.
How long have you been here?
2 hours.
2 hours?
Yes.
And you're taking the baby to the hospital?
Yes.
Poleni sana.
Asante.
According to Kasarani OCPD, who led operation on Thika Road, the operation would continue with no one being spared after hours. Essential services providers caught up in the melee were collateral damages, according to police officers.
Watu wawe nyumbani by saa 2 kwisha. Wale wako na pass tunawaruhusu, wale kuna essential service wanarupita. Lakini mtu ametoka kwa ulevi. Magari kama haya ni ya ulevi haya.
In a statement released by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government through the Office of Nairobi Regional Commissioner James Kianda, stringent measures such as those imposed yesterday are imperative for the survival of every Kenyan, but civic responsibility is a more potent weapon in the war against COVID-19 than enforcement from police officers. Promising more police action, Kianda has said traffic management within Nairobi metropolitan area will be reviewed to facilitate smooth transition into curfew hours. Kenyans have also been asked to plan their movement accordingly in a bid to beat curfew hours. Government spokesperson retired Colonel Cyrus Oguna through a tweet says observing containment measures include strictly respecting the curfew time, which starts at 8 p.m. for the zoned areas of Nairobi, Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado and Nakuru, and 10 p.m. for the rest of the country. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, with the increasing zeal by Kenyans to receive COVID-19 vaccine, the Ministry of Health has clarified variants of the number of doses administered in some counties. This, as the world's largest COVID-19 vaccine producer, India, says it is facing a shortage of the vaccine due to its high number of daily infections, as Muthoni Maina tells us.
The vaccination process in Nyeri County continues to raise an eyebrow over the numbers recorded to have received the vaccine. Nyeri County is reported to have received 23,500 Covishield vaccine doses and had managed to vaccinate 23,733 people by close of business Thursday. According to the National COVID-19 Task Force on Vaccine Deployment and Vaccination, some manufacturers include some overage or extra quantity in a vial to cater for losses when vaccines are being drawn into syringes. This depends on the type of syringes used, as the remaining quantity may yield 1 or 2 extra doses. In a statement, the task force says the development has also been observed in other countries conducting COVID-19 vaccination, such as the United States of America, due to the use of low-dead volume syringes. Moreover, a follow-up at one facility in Kenya found that at least 1 extra dose could be extracted from a vial. The country is targeting an average wastage rate of 10% or less to cater for both areas with low wastage and those with high wastage, as it is expected to vary. The task force, however, says that health workers are expected to strictly follow guidelines on use of the vaccines, including the time of discard after opening during vaccination. Over 651,650 people have already received the Covishield vaccine in the country since the exercise kicked off over a month ago. Those aged above 58 years constitute the bulk of those who have received the jab, with over 365,000 of those within the age bracket already vaccinated. Over 136,000 of those vaccinated are healthcare workers. Over 97,700 are teachers, while 52,602 are security officers. Men continue to exhibit greater penchant than women in being vaccinated against COVID-19, constituting 56% of those vaccinated. Nairobi County has utilized the highest number of doses, with 284,500 distributed doses, with close to 208,000 persons already vaccinated. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has recorded a total of 366 new COVID-19 cases, tallying to a total of 151,653 nationwide. With high expectations of the second dose, India is currently running out of COVID jabs in global supplies amidst the soaring wave. India is also expected to restrict further exports. Muthoni Maina, TV47.
Thanks, Muthoni. Now, high cost of living, unemployment, and the inability by the government to handle the COVID-19 pandemic are the top reasons why Kenyans feel that the country is heading in the wrong direction. At least 65% of Kenyans feel the country is heading in the wrong direction, citing the poor state of the economy, poor governance, and the COVID-19 pandemic, as Ruth Mulandi now tells us.
For the past 13 months since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country, life for many Kenyans changed for the worst. Businesses were forced to shut down. Others received pay cuts, as some were forced with the ugly reality of unemployment. With the tough times now being faced, 65% of Kenyans feel that the country is heading in the wrong direction. In a research done by Infotrack research firm, from a sample size of 1,000 respondents conducted between 13th to 16th March 2021 showed that 34% attribute the high cost of living, unemployment, the COVID-19 pandemic, bad politics and rampant corruption at 34%, 17%, 11%, 8% and 7% respectively as the top 5 reasons why the country wasn't doing well. 58% of Kenyans say the economy was the biggest indication of the country's poor score, with poor governance following at 15%.
From what we are seeing from these poll findings, that it's Kenyans' hope that government would actually rethink tax relief measures, both on an individual basis and also for the businesses in the country, so that they can actually, get on with doing business and spurring economic growth and creating employment.
The COVID-19 pandemic and its continuous third wave in the country was also a key concern for Kenyans. Last year, at a time like this, majority of Kenyans at 64% felt that the infections were both a personal health and a personal finance issue, whereas now viewed it is more of a personal financial problem, as at 62% felt the pinch brought by the pandemic. This pinch further highlighting that 77% of Kenyans' livelihoods had been affected. Of those, 32% say their business had been adversely affected. A further 28% said they no longer have an income as they had lost their jobs entirely when the country was placed under shutdown. 17% said their salaries had been reduced and 6% were unable to cater for their basic needs. The research done right before President Uhuru Kenyatta made his 15th State of the Nation address on the COVID-19 situation in the country revealed that 65% of Kenyans supported the extension of the nationwide curfew for an additional 60 days. A large number of 88% of the sample size supported the ban on public gatherings, with 82% requesting the Health and Transport Ministries to revise their protocols for the public transport sector. It is on that same breath that the J Networks Group, a group of informal employment sector representatives, are calling on the government to take seriously the cries of ordinary Kenyans and open up the economy, further urging the government to allow private sectors that can afford to buy vaccines of their choice to do so and vaccinate their workers for businesses to resume, saying flattening the COVID-19 curve is uncertain. Ruth Mulandi, TV47.
And to politics, COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli hosted Minority Leader Junet Mohammed, Jubilee Vice Chairman David Murathe, former Gitanga Member of Parliament Peter Kenneth, CIS Senator James Orengo, and CS Raphael Tuju at his Ildimat home in Kajiado County. Atwoli says the meeting was a consultative political meeting, and the meeting comes amid claims that Parliament is set to meet coming week to finalize on the BBI report. The House leadership is set to meet to conclude its report on the 2020 Constitutional Amendment Bill. The search for Kenya's next Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court is set to continue today. The Judicial Service Commission panel took a weekend off from a week-long interview that saw 5 candidates defend their application to succeed retired Chief Justice David Maraga. 5 more applicants will meet the JSC panel starting today as the search for Chief Justice gains momentum, with more drama and face-offs expected during the sittings.
The search for Kenya's next Chief Justice enters its home stretch on Monday, with Justice Ndumandere's day to the Judicial Service Commission JSC panel expected to begin at 9 a.m. at the Supreme Court Gardens in Nairobi.
As precisely as possible, Your Honor.
Nderi is the 6th on the JSC list, the commission having interviewed Justices Juma Said Chitembwe, Martha Koome, Marete Njagi, and Professor Patricia Mbote, and Senior Counsel Philip Murgor last week. Born in Kiambu County, Justice Nderi is an alumnus of Nairobi School and was admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya in December 1988 after graduating from the University of Nairobi with a law degree in 1987 and a diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law in 1988. He also holds a master's degree in international trade law from the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa. Having majored in commercial arbitration, coupled with his over 31 years of experience under his belt, saw him appointed as judge of the Employment and Labour Relations Court in 2012. Nderi is 13 years in Swaziland as a senior Crown Counsel in the Ministry of Swaziland, and president of the Swaziland Industrial Court also sets him apart from the crowd. His pro-workers rulings are also expected to form the discussion in his interview tomorrow. In one of his rulings last year, Justice Nderi said that it is unlawful to terminate the employment of a house help without giving her a notice. He also added that it is illegal and unfair labor practice to send a house help away without paying her any terminal benefits and not giving her a certificate of service. But with many calling him a judge with a heart for oppressed workers, Justice Nderi's most famous defense of workers was in a 30th June 2015 judgment when he awarded teachers a 50 to 60% increment on their basic salary. For the next few months, he would be the darling of the teaching fraternity. However, his famous ruling is not part of the 5 sample writings Justice Nderi submitted to the JSC to be considered in his application.
Just very briefly, and then we'll continue.
Within 4 months of the decision, 5 Court of Appeal judges had torn his legal reasoning to shreds, faulting his fidelity to procedure, accusing him of encouraging litigants to commit offences. Lady Justice Martha Koome, who was interviewed for the position last week, also faulted Nderi's ruling, saying he was in a hurry to finalize the matter and resolve the dispute expeditiously. She also noted that the salary increase could not stand the test of law and the Constitution. Senior Counsel Fred Ngatia is also eyeing the CJ position. Born 64 years ago in Laikipia County, Ngatia holds 2 master's degrees and an aggregate of 41 years experience in the legal profession. Ngatia's landmark case at the Supreme Court in 2018, which led to the abolishment of mandatory death sentence, rescued over 4,000 prisoners facing death sentences.
Page 116.
It is this fierce Supreme Court battle that saw him ranked one of the best dispute resolution lawyers in the country. Should he be successful in the interview, Ngatia will become the second CJ to be appointed from outside the judiciary after retired CJ Dr. Willy Mutunga. However, his advocate-client relationship with acting CJ Philomena Mwilu, who is also a commissioner in the JSC, has been questioned, with senior counsel Philip Murgor, who closed the first round of interviews last week, claiming that Mwilu may favor Ngatia in the search for the next CJ.
My name is William Ouko. I am a judge of the Court of Appeal.
Born in 1961 in Siaya County, Justice William Ouko was appointed President of the Court of Appeal in 2018, having served as judge of the High Court between 2004 to 2012, before he was promoted to a judge of the Court of Appeal in 2012. His over 33 years of experience in law gives him an edge over the rest of the candidates. Being the only applicant with the most extensive court experience, Justice William Ouko will face the JSC commissioners on Wednesday. In his 33 years of legal practice, Ouko has served as the Joint Secretary of the Goldenberg Commission of Inquiry, where he is remembered for his deadly efficiency, which has over time earned him the highest service honors in the country, the Elder of the Burning Spear and the Chief of the Burning Spear. But his imprimatur on the judiciary is the report of the task force on judiciary reforms that he co-chaired with Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni. Many of the recommendations in the report which bears his name were included in the 2010 Constitution, including the expansion of the representation of the JSC to include the Supreme Court, the Law Society of Kenya, and the Kenya Judges and Magistrates Association. The UCO report, which is the most comprehensive blueprint for change in the judiciary, also proposed the introduction of performance management in the judiciary, alongside a ring-fenced financial allocation of at least 2.5% of the annual national budget. Professor Moni Wekesa will be next on the line on Thursday as the JSC prepares to conclude the interviews. Born in 1959 in Kakamega County, Wekesa is a double doctor of law and sports medicine with at least 16 years in the legal field. But his interest in sports medicine could jeopardize his hopes of becoming Kenya's next Chief Justice. The Kenya Rugby Union has written to the GSC, faulting Professor Wekesa's report on doping among Kenyan players that cast the country's best internationally performing ball sport in a bad light. An independent investigation by World Rugby in March 2016 laid to rest allegations that there was a systematic doping of Kenyan players through food supplements. The allegation first surfaced in a 2014 report prepared by a committee under the chairmanship of Professor Moni Wekesa. In the letter, Kenya Rugby Union Chairman Odur Gangla told JSC that the Wekesa committee reached summary judgments and conclusions without giving senior coaches an opportunity to explain themselves, and that it refused to follow the procedure, instead preferring hearsay, and that it treated the sport causally. His academic counterpart Alice Jepkoech Yano closes the list of the shortlisted candidates for the position, appearing before the commission on Friday. Born in 1968 in Elgeyo Marakwet, Yano is the youngest of the applicants. She was selected as one of the 15 members of the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission in 2001. But allegations that she is not a team player could be her greatest misdoing in the race to succeed retired Justice Maraga. It is alleged that Yano quickly established her reputation as a divisive figure early in the Constitution review process, leading a delegation of 10 members of the commission to secretly meet the late retired President Daniel Moi in a move that threatened to split the review team in the middle. Professor Yash Palgai, who had been named the chairman of the commission, was negotiating to bring the Parallel People's Commission of Kenya, also known as the Ufungamano Initiative, into the same tent as the parliamentary process, raising fears that the ruling party would lose control of the constitutional review process. The two commissions were later merged, bringing the total number of members to 27. The JSC will vote and nominate the most qualified applicants in 7 days after concluding the interviews. The commission will then forward the names of the nominees recommended for appointment to the president, after which the president will present the names to parliament for vetting. After the vetting, which will take approximately 28 days, Parliament's resolution on the candidate will be presented to the president for appointment before the new CJ's name is gazetted and sworn in.
Now, the international students in the country are appealing to the government to allow them have work permits so that they can be in a position to sustain themselves during this time when their dependents are affected by the global pandemic. In the meantime, the students also want their embassies to be checking up on them from time to time. The students spoke to our senior education affairs reporter, Sharon Beranga.
My name is Alex Liluka. I come from Zambia. I'm a student at KCA. I'm pursuing a diploma in counseling psychology. This is my first year. I used to go to the main campus before everything was closed up recently, like 2 weeks ago or so. But currently we're doing online classes for now. So you just have to juggle, schedule yourself. I chose to come to Kenya because I wanted to build my CV. It's one of the things that I really wanted. And studying abroad would open up a lot of opportunities for me. I was actually worried about my brother because I only have one brother. He's actually older than me. So when the pandemic started, he was the first person that came into my mind. I was like, oh, my brother. Because we just lived the two of us. So I was like, oh, my brother, how does he cope with this? So, and that time he got sick. So I was really, really, really stressed about it. Like, my brother is sick, so who is going to take care of him? I didn't know what's going to happen because you never expect what was going to happen. So, like today, you find that you're hanging out with your friend. Tomorrow, you find out, oh, they've passed on, they had COVID. So it really challenged me. Yes, I'm totally dependent on my family. So one thing that I would tell you is, when COVID started, I had to plan on how to spend my expenses because I realized most people don't go for work. People must have lost their jobs because of COVID. So I looked back at my family. I was like, oh, if with this pandemic, so meaning I just have to plan myself financially and make myself financially disciplined. So when COVID started, I had bought groceries in bulk because I thought, oh, maybe I might not go out. Oh, maybe I might go home. So I was kind of like debating on what to do. So what I did was I planned myself. I was like, with the money that I get from home, let me just buy groceries that are going to last me up to this time. And so when I get another funds from home, I'll still plan ahead. So that's what I did initially. Yeah, like it's really, really hard for some reason. You know, like we've closed the trimester so far. So I cannot travel back home because I'm scared if I go back home, I can get COVID or something. Or let me just stay, since we're just closed for 2 weeks, so let me just stay home. So to start with the pandemic, at first I was really stressed about it because each and everyone had their own assumptions about it. They would tell you, no, it stays in the air for 8 hours. So if you go out there, you're going to get it, blah, blah. So I was really stressed about it. And I was like, oh, I'm far away from home. What if anything happens? Who is going to be there for me? So it really affected me psychologically.
In another part of town,
I'm Hussein Mohammed. I'm from Somali, Mogadishu. I studied Bachelor of Science in Software Development in KCA University as an international student. Lecturers communicate to students through Zoom and WhatsApp as well. If there is something issue of coursework, if there is like an exam or task that is going to be done and it's an urgent, lecturers communicate through class reps and they will be posting it on the WhatsApp. The restrictions and lockdowns in the countries are being communicated and being imposed immediately. They take effect within 1 day to 2 days, where students even cannot go back to their own countries because even it requires some preparation. You have to prepare your tickets. If your visa is expired, you have to take your visas and you validate your visas through the immigration office, and that requires a process. Some of us cannot work, but then once you are locked down, you need also to survive. You need finances. You need a place to stay. You need, everything. It extended, despite the finances you have and everything, challenges you go through. You have to go through because you should always have a backup support. Because I'm totally dependent on my parents because I cannot work. I don't have a work permit. I'm not allowed to work, even though companies will employ me. Even if I finish my studies, I have to work. I have to apply work permit. Currently, I'm here as a student, as an international student, and I stay here with my student pass.
some of the student leaders from different universities in the country started a campaign dubbed Me to You to help raise funds for international students who are struggling.
The government under close scrutiny, they can make some leeway and allow students to do some hustles while in here and try to support themselves. Schools can try to create international business centers. You know, for example, we have like the Chinese, they do have their international business center here. We can also have ours, schools like UN, institutions like MKU, KCA, they can have their business centers whereby students can showcase their culture and sell.
For this, we've started a campaign, Me to You campaign. So far, we've reached out to more than 15 international students. We are reaching out to them by giving them upkeep money. So far, we've managed to give our upkeep money of 3,000 per international students for those we've reached out to.
Foreign embassies in Kenya is that it must be their state responsibilities, especially the ambassadors around, to look into it that students who stay in Kenya, especially the foreign students, their welfare is well taken care of. As you've heard from the students, the challenges of walking around looking for student passes, I believe just as the Ethiopian and Malawian, the Mozambique embassy does, the embassy should be walking around in this country and various institutions to look into the plight of these students, to ask where the problem lies and offer a possible solution. It shouldn't be the...
Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
You know, when the embassies come in especially in matters permit, study permit and etc., it will be very easy when it comes to issuance because their documentation lies with the embassy.
Well, residents of Bikeke village in Kiminini sub-county, Trans Nzoia County, are calling on Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA, to investigate the death of their loved one who was found dead in unclear circumstances a few meters from Bikeke police station, as Boniface Baraza tells us.
The lifeless body of Matayo Wekesa was this morning found a few meters from Bikeke police station, prompting the irate residents to protest the removal of the deceased from the scene. The deceased is believed to have been summoned to present himself at the police station to answer charges leveled against him after he was accused of stealing a barbed wire from the auntie's place.
Sasa mimi nilikuja hapa nikapata huyu askari anaitwa Wainaina. Kwanza kumweleza akaniambia enda utipiwe. Mimi nikaambia si kesi, nataka tu wanirudishie waya. Si ati namstaki. Hata ndio huyu amenifuata mpaka hapa. Na alifika tu na akalala hapo nje kwa post. Nikaandika statement na akaniambia wewe enda, huyu amelewa amelala, akiamka atatuonyesha waya mali iko. Alafu kesho ukujie waya, utapata waya yako. Mimi nikaenda nikamwacha amelala hapo nje, ni mzima tu. Sasa asubuhi napata ripoti ati amekufa.
Mara mwisho jana marehemu tulikuwa naye huko nyumbani. Alikuwa tu sawa kwamba japokuwa kulikuwa na mzozo kidogo tu, akakuja huko police station. Wenye alikuja hivi akabaki hapo akawa ametulia hapo hivi. Sasa leo asubuhi ndo nimepigiwa simu ati amekufa. Kwa polisi wamekata, wao wanasema ati amekufia hapo nje, lakini kulingana vile naona amevurutwa. Hata ukiona venye amevurutwa kuna jiwe kutoka huko ndani ya police station. Na zile coins zinakuwa na kwa mfuko. Amevurutwa mpaka hapo hivyo.
The unfortunate event has raised so many questions on safety of the residents as the family calls for speedy investigation into the death. Local leaders have also called on the Independent Police Oversight Authority IPOA to investigate the murder.
Tunataka tuulize IPOA, Commissioner ya Police, uchunguzi uweze kufanywa kudhibiti nini ambaye imeua kijana. Mbali na uchunguzi wa maaskari wa DCI wa Trans Nzoia, tunataka pia DCI kutoka Nairobi pia waingilie kati na ukweli uweze kupatikana.
Officers from Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI have already commenced the investigations. Boniface Barasa, TV47, Bikeke Police Station, Kiminini Constituency, Trans Nzoia County.
Away from that, it's now time that we briefly look at the papers. We have Dr. Barrack Muluka, who's a communications advisor, and we pick on the key stories that are captured. Some of them are the stories that will be forming the conversation this morning, and therefore we might not delve deep into looking at them, but just a brief look of such stories that we probably need to pay attention to. We have the People Daily, we have the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper. I hope you can clearly see
yes,
this.
Indeed,
now that the paper person is not here just yet. Caught in curfew crackdown. I think I needed us to discuss this actually. This would have been part and parcel of the conversation, though I know there's really nothing much that we might look into. I mean, now that it has been discussed for the better part of the weekend. But do you suppose that the government is being a little bit too radical, or Kenyans are just poking their fingers so hard on them when it's not necessary?
It's both ways, but it's more a question of where the balance tilts in the end. Because you cannot throw a blanket cordon around people on the road without really trying to disaggregate them and to understand who is where and doing what. And government has been lax, especially on matters to do with the road. and therefore even matters to do with the curfew. If you look at ourselves, Linda, we are basically an indisciplined people.
Right.
Indiscipline rules us. When we know that we should be home by such and such a time, for whatever reason, you will find that there are very frivolous causes that are causing us to be still outside.
Yeah.
Away from things like I need to be on a show, say here or elsewhere, in the evening. For the past 1 year, I have never experienced this thing that we call curfew.
Yeah.
I hear about it.
Because you're always on time at
Because
home.
I'm always at home.
Right.
I must have an exceptional reason to be outside, and I think that is the same for everyone else. It must be a compelling reason, which even government would understand. And this thing develops progressively from very small things. You have seen motorbikes, for example, the boda bodas. They do not ride or use the roads according to any law.
Yeah.
You can encounter them from any direction. You can be looking on the right-hand side because you know that's where the traffic is coming from. You turn to the left and you run immediately into a border. And there's a policeman there watching. And he even thinks there's a case there for you to answer.
Right.
And they start with small things in school, being brought up. When you are told tuck in your shirt, you don't think it matters. When you are told adjust your tie, you bring the tie somewhere around the chest, or you tie it on the head, or the girls fold the blouse somewhere near the breasts, and they're seated in class. And we carry that in discipline into adulthood. And when we are told stay at home, we really don't. Even now, we have been told not to go to places where we probably would be drinking alcohol is being sold. We have found ways around it, and all these people are coming from some place, most of them from some makeshift illegal bars, perhaps in somebody's house or in some room somewhere. Therefore, I cannot wholly blame the government.
But hold it right there. Even as we speak of this, and I agree, I think the first moment I saw some videos, I was like, serves them right, because you cannot complain while you know very well that you were supposed to be home at that hour of the night. But some of this also being fueled by police working in cohorts with the people who are flouting these rules. And when you see such scenarios and the police coming out, adamant and also rigid, and they say that such is going to be the case for the next, I don't know when, until they lift these measures that have been set on board. But the question is, when you see videos again of these very same forces, breaking into someone's shop and stealing during curfew hours, you put question mark. This becomes even complicated when you hear of reports, as of course that expose by one of the local stations in the country, speaking of a scenario where again bandits go to policemen and to these forces to get attires and to get rifles so that they can proceed and do their heinous acts. Then you get confused in between. Can we even trust the government to maintain this as it is?
I don't get confused at all, Linda.
Oh, yeah.
I'm familiar with the case that you are talking about. I think we all watched it last evening.
Yeah.
And I draw a very clear distinction between the Kenya Police Service as an institution and individual rotten eggs within the Kenya Police Service. And those individual rotten eggs are criminals. And they should be dealt with as criminals without demonizing the whole police service.
All right.
Because it's not the policy of the National Police Service to do those things. And they should be arrested and they should be dealt with. And even in that footage, I saw that some of them were also being sorted out by the Kenya Police Service. So I do not conflate the two completely.
Okay.
There are criminals everywhere. In the media, there are criminals. There are fellows who will not allow you to get on air here if you have not done certain things.
That's true.
We cannot say that is the policy of the station or the media. There are people who steal exams in schools. We cannot say that is the policy of the Ministry of Education or the individual school. These fellows are everywhere and they must be sorted out.
All right, that's interesting. I'd still want to go harder, but then again, I think we leave it at that, because then what you witness in terms of these measures that have been set on board, in most cases we're told that yes, it's the police force that is going to go out there, or the service to go out there and, you know, make sure that some of these laws are looked into and you know, Kenyans abide by the same. But you go to matatus today, it's a whole different affair. You go to different places, you realize that social distancing is a mess. Then you ask yourself, do we need to be policed around so that, again, we see some of these things happening? So in a way, I would want to buy into what it is that you say. Speaking of which, InfoTrack releases a survey on what Kenyans feel, and I know you'll equally say that on this one, it's not strange. It is something that has been there. It's just that, again, the Kenyans are echoing the same afresh. Why Kenyans feel the country is going in wrong direction. Wrong direction, 65% of us think that such is the case. 20% think or are neither right nor wrong direction. They're just somewhere in between. Those who think that the country is headed for the right direction, 14%. 1% really do not know what is playing out, and I would want to imagine that they would again fall on the side of the 65%. So 3 in 5 Kenyans note that the COVID-19 pandemic is both a personal health and personal financial issue for them. So much has been playing out. High cost of living, COVID-19 pandemic, unemployment and corruption are issues that many say are taking country in a wrong direction.
Yes, I had a look at some of these figures. I've taken a look at the summary of the report as issued by InfoTrack. And a number of things are confounding. You will find that Kenyans, for example, feel that the country is headed in the wrong direction. And the reason they give is because of the cost of living. They are taking a symptom and treating that symptom as the cause. The cause is underlying. It disappoints me to see, and I need to talk to Angela Mbitho and her team to find out how exactly that question was framed. Because it disturbs me that you would find that only 17% or thereabout, I think it's 16 or 17%, think that it's because of governance, bad governance. How can you find that the cost of living is very high and that because of that the country is going the wrong direction, and you are not interrogating governance issues, you're not interrogating political issues? They lie at the basis, at the foundation of everything. And so what we are looking at is basically a symptom that indicates that something is wrong at the base. And if you do not cure the base, you will not get anywhere. And you start seeing these things again taking permutations of ethnicity and ethnic leanings. When you try to look at the disaggregation of Kenya is going in the wrong direction in terms of perceptions within regions, you will find that that feeling is highest in Western and Nyanza. Then it is lowest in Northeastern. Northeastern, once again, Mbitho perhaps and InfoTrack should have tried to go a little bit beyond that, but I recognize that this is a quantitative research.
Okay.
A qualitative research would interrogate a little more what the factors behind are, so that the people of Northeastern who are standing at 50%, we are going the wrong direction, would say why. It's possible that they gave up on Kenya a long time ago, so it doesn't seem to matter one way or the other. You look at Central, it is at 55%, yeah, and especially issues pertaining to governance, where they seem to be fairly comfortable, and you can understand from a human platform where we are people who do not like slavery, but we don't seem to mind the slave master, especially if that slave master should be our brother or sister. We tend to separate these things in a manner that then distorts. That is where we are as a country. These quantitative researches that are being done as rapid response surveys are good in the sense that they are barometers of where the country is.
Yeah.
But perhaps they need to put in qualitative components that start helping us to interpret the findings or the data in a more explanatory manner than just giving statistics that these are the feelings, and sometimes ending up with symptoms as the reasons when the reasons are more at the base.
All right, interesting to note. And sometimes then one would want to ask, what is the essence of this research and collection of these statistics?
It helps. It still helps.
It helps, right?
It still helps.
It triggers a conversation as it is.
And gives us some direction. It's basically a barometer.
Yeah.
A barometer will tell you about the atmospheric pressure without necessarily telling you what has caused it to be there. A thermometer will tell you where your temperature is.
But
it will not necessarily tell you what has given you that temperature.
That's true.
And these are these surveys. They help you as a warning shot that this is where you are. And if I were in government, I would take them very seriously and try now to go to the next stage to try and find out what could be done about the situation.
Well, the numerous times they have been pushed, the numerous times they have been blamed, especially when they speak of the performance of these leaders, you know, in the houses and all that, they always say that, well, these are just numbers that have been crafted. We take a short break. We come back with more on the papers and the discussion.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongeze zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Ndio nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444# utunukiwe credo double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Welcome to Nairobi Christian Center Bahati. We are an Assemblies of God Church under Reverend Fred Gitahi as a senior pastor. We are located at Bahati, Makadara area in Nairobi. We run a virtual church service with online services every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. as well as the children's services from 10 a.m. Teens and youth services every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nairobi Christian Center Bahati and on YouTube Nairobi Christian Center. Be blessed.
On the next episode of The Cook-Off Show with Alex Karani.
Welcome to my show. This is the cooking show where we just eat.
Come slowly. Enyewe walisema ukweli. Enyewe wanawake wanakuwa na maneno mingi. Sasa umeanza busi, umeanza kisho ya busi. Kwani yule busi de. You ready?
Wait a minute. Mimi uliniambia nikuja nichemshe kichwa busi alafu mnanipatia hizi vitu gumu na kwa kitu ya maana nafanyaga nini?
Shika hapa.
Unadhani nitaweza kumultitask?
Siwe sinasikia mademu multitask.
Mimi sio mademu.
So very. Ni chita kweli?
Ni kama gadongoro yabe.
From a distance.
I don't. Please. We were acting. Wacha mimi niendelea kukula.
Wewe endelea tu kukula, mimi nishamaliza.
Endelea kuongea. Mimi unajua kukula ndio ilikuwa imenileta. Niliwaambia welcome to my shop where we just eat. Cooking is none of my business.
People to see farming as a possibility and not as impossibility. You don't concentrate your energy, your efforts into one section of the farm. We enrich our soil so that we can produce more healthy crops which are naturally good for the people.
Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday when the clock hits 7:30 p.m. Next episode of Coffee with the Movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I have that singer, inspiring man of God, Sifa Favor. Karibu man.
Karibu. But I'll be honest with you, I bought my first land when I was 13, half an acre.
How much was half an hectare at that time?
Nilipigwa until the joints were not moving. Even the legs were not moving. Even the head, I think niko na one.
Most embarrassing moment when you're performing on stage.
Catch this story every Sunday at 8 p.m.
On the next episode, we head to Kayole and speak to Nancy about animal feed.
There's this slogan, inafinyiria biashara sana. Customer is always right. My God.
On the Grind, Monday, 7:30 p.m.
We're still looking at the newspapers, People Daily, Daily Nation, and with me, Dr. Barrack Muluka, Communications Advisor, and Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Member of Parliament, Ndaragwa, joins us for the conversation. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Karibu sana. Yes, we have gone through the papers, some of the key stories that we want to touch on the survey, on the curfew and the nightmare, and so much is happening still. And I guess this should be the last story that we'll be looking at, even as we delve into the conversation, because again, it forms the basis of our conversation. Members of Parliament in night talks to craft a Ruto deal. And on Friday and Saturday, some 48 lawmakers, mostly from Mount Kenya and Rift Valley regions, met at the home of Madeira legislator that is Rigathi Gachagua, to discuss economic and political demands they want agreed with Deputy President William Ruto. That is a story captured on page 7 of the People Daily. Equally has been captured on the front page and expounded on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Mount Kenya members of parliament list demands to back up Ruto or to back Ruto. High stakes, 60 leaders from the region have formed 2 committees to steer the negotiations around economy and 2022 positions. One, I'd want to believe that this was bound to happen. Honorable Kioni.
It was bound to happen. Well, I don't know. I think it's the important thing is that reality is setting on all those people who would want to run for presidential positions. And unlike in the past, and we have said it in this platform, and it's always an honor to be in the presence of this distinguished Kenyan, Barrack Muluka. But as we say, it's not, there isn't anything that is exciting Kenyans towards you, as it was 2013, which formed the pact between William and President Uhuru. 2013, it was the ICC that, you know, it was the big envelope.
Yeah.
Anything else was thrown in that big envelope. But the big envelope was, how do we get ourselves out of this ICC as a country, because it wasn't a good thing. I believe even now it's not a good thing to be at ICC.
Yeah.
But this time round, you don't even have to sit around and talk about the economic demands. The big envelope is who is going to get us into a better economic footing than we are in today. How do we navigate ourselves given the difficulties that we have had? Other than the fact that our economy was still not strong, even before the COVID, even before the locusts invasion, and now before the delayed rains that some of us are experiencing in some parts of this country. In the midst of all this, who is it that is going to get us out of that difficult situation that it is? The very high levels of unemployment, the almost desperate nature or state that our youthful people are in. So the person who will be trusted with this is a person who can actually be able to tinker the economy.
Right.
And I've said it before, I want to say it again. The person who can be able to tinker the economy, play with it like Kibaki did. We remember Kibaki found it at -2%. But by the 3rd, 4th year, we could actually start seeing some signs. And today, if you ask people, they always remember that during Kibaki's time, we had money. That is the statement that you find with many people. So ideally, it is not, you don't even need to sit around and extract some demands from anybody. I think the issue is that who is it who has the better way to run this economy, to activate the economy, to keep it running in spite or despite of the difficulties that we have had. And we are not certain that the COVID is going away. So we need some good thinking that needs to be put into the affairs of this nation and see how do we get the economy running. And I can tell you again, it is not anything, it's not really political extraction that you'll be looking from leaders going forward. It is really who has a blueprint, who is this who has the ideals that can help us move out. So unlike in the past, and I've said it before, unlike in the past when it was very easy for somebody to just become a populist and you're elected into power. Today, when we finally get to now looking at who do we want, because we are not yet there. It is a question of who is promising a better economy tomorrow than we are today. Who is this who will make sure that my pocket has money?
You see,
not
Mushibio,
by
I want to
having to dish out, but by coming up with policies that can help us move our economy to the next level. And remember, we also have some fake promises. So we also need to really interrogate the things that are put on the table. There are those fake things that are said that have become very popular with the people. But there must be issues that can withstand some kind of discussion or some critical analysis. And I'm sure when they are put on the table, that will help me decide on this person and that person.
You've not decided just yet, Mheshimiwa?
Oh, no.
Is it so?
But also, we need, on top of that is the record that follows you. A track record that is not going to point towards misuse of our funds, of public funds, but where there is hope that anything little that we get will be managed well.
Let's allow Barrack to come in. And Barrack, just looking at the individuals that we have on the table today, if we are to go by what it is Honorable Jeremiah Kioni speaks about, and I doubt there's any who would stand.
Can I throw one so that he is able, that at any given time in the last 3 or 4 elections now, the presidential candidate is known way less than a year into the elections. So we still
have time?
6-7 months off. In fact, more than 7 months, 8 months. We will get to know about the candidates December.
Are we likely to get
January,
a new
February.
crop of leaders, honestly?
Yes.
A new crop?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, he has come a little late, so we have to allow
We have to allow him to.
More time.
No. Instead, he should be punished. He should be punished.
Welcome, and it's always a delight to have Mheshimiwa here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. Whatever it is we do so in civilized fashion, as it ought to be done always. But I want to agree, and I want to point out that the Mount Kenya MPs are way ahead of the rest of the country. They always tend to be ahead of the country, and then the rest of the country starts whining and complaining. You see, charity, they say, begins at home. And this is the right kind of charity, that we are not just asking that what position are you going to give me? I've had serious challenges, for example, with BBI, where it talks of an expanded executive, and the thought has been that if 5 people from 5 communities could get there, then our issues are resolved. I don't think so. Our issues are resolved when, as whole regions and as whole communities, we are included in the share of opportunities in the country, and we can feel that we are indeed included, not just by seeing some people symbolically holding certain offices, certain portfolio, but without any benefits really trickling down to us. So the mountain is ahead, and it is good that it's coming out at this time, because this is a wake-up call to other regions, whether they come as mergers of ethnic communities from those regions, because even in Mount Kenya, we keep talking of Mount Kenya almost as if it was one tribe. It is not. It is a combination of a number of indigenous communities, and therefore from say Western, where I was born and reared, we could say that the people who are called the Teso, the Abaluya, the Luo of the Lake Basin, the Kisii, we could also come together, or the entire community that is called the Lake Basin platform can come together and also ask whoever the contenders are, what is in this for us?
At least that one is not happening anytime soon.
The coastal communities, everything has got a starting point.
All right.
And as I say, the signal from Mount Kenya could just be the wake-up call to Northeastern to come together, to the North Rift to distinguish themselves from the South the South Rift. The people of Bomet, for example, the Kipsigis people in that region, perhaps do better to identify themselves with the rest of the lake basin than they do to identify themselves with the North Rift. And then when all this is said and done, I've talked about Western, where I was born, but we Nairobians must also come together as the people of Nairobi and ask all of these candidates what is in it for us as a region.
All right.
Would you want me to say that, and I totally agree that you now can see that without us being forced, we are now thinking, like even as I sit now, the issue is that what are these issues that I need to put on the table on behalf of the county of Ndaragwa? That is now what is forming in the minds of any progressive reader. There before was, we must do this. You know, it was just a very popular thing where you get into a lorry and you are making all the noise that you can make around. You only switch it off when you get near MP's Chair Hospital.
And a footnote. That there must be an ingredient in that covenant that secures the agreement. That we don't help you to cross
to the other side, and once we're there,
and then when you get to the other side,
you are not there.
Yeah.
Yes.
You betray us.
But
you disown the treaty, and you even behave arrogant.
But you see, let me read that footnote. If I helped you cross a river that had a crocodile, the fact that I made you survive the crocodile is good enough. So when you get to the other side, look for your balance.
Absolutely.
That's why we don't have Kumi Yangu today.
Absolutely not.
I can't help you deal with the crocodile, and then on the other side you still.
You expect me to.
In other words, and I hope that the people of the mountain are listening to their representative here. He's telling them that you can go to Ruto and tell him all these things, and then you can help him to win the election. And after he has won, don't expect him to deliver.
Let me say this.
The only difference here is that the team that seems to have been reported about have their presidential candidates as Ruto.
Right.
And the question is whether they are 48 the president of the 48 MPs is the president of the people of that region.
Now that's another
big difference. Big difference, and I can tell you now, the ground is completely different. Extracting economic demands from whoever the presidential candidate, eventual presidential person is one thing. Of course, there is also the issue of personal survival. Like where they met. That is, if they met at Karatina, that region, out of all about 12 members of parliament, only one came back, Kanini Kega. All the others were swept home. So even the people who are sitting to extract demands on your behalf must also be people you are going to be with. So first and foremost is you secure yourself before you start securing others. That's what we say in our community. When you're trying to ensure that the beehive is properly positioned on a tree, you cannot be able to do that unless you have done it yourself. You yourself as an individual must first and foremost be properly positioned. You must be able to identify the proper branches to step on. And then you secure your safety up there before you now bring in the hive. And I think that is something. Let me just say that is something that is very crucial. Even as you're looking at this analysis.
All right, we need a bell.
Before we go there. Yes.
I believe we're disciplined enough, so we definitely do not need this.
And you remember he has just been interjecting since I started saying from the footnote all the way. Now, but I also wanted to say this, that without doubt, the BBI, the creation of those 5, 7, 8, they are more than 5 positions, because you are looking at all the totality of those positions, helps the country stabilize politically. But it is the challenge of every of the regions that who are the persons who are coming to bargain on your behalf.
Yes.
That will happen. And that is the starting point. Because if I think you, like now, one of the things that is being recommended by BBI is that if your name has ever been mentioned adversely in any public report, if BBI goes through, then you cannot be allowed to sit allowed those tables negotiating for power.
Oh, okay.
Including being a member of parliament. And that's why I like the question you're asking Barrack over here. Why doesn't he over himself? And I believe with, again, the people from his region, even if they don't elect him, they should be able to give him some place to help them negotiate. For the reason that he comes with credibility.
Right.
He comes in with a person, the person comes in without a baggage. But if I'm seeing that you are part of the problems we have, wewe ni mmoja wale wamekuwa wakiibaiba kwa hii Kenya.
Are you saying that these individuals that we're speaking about
No, not
yes,
this. I have
it's got nothing to do
this.
with him or
I
with
moved
them.
away from this because that is not anything. I told you there is a president for the 48 MPs.
Yes.
And there is a president, the community will be looking
Let's
at.
allow Barrack to react to that, Mheshimiwa.
And as he says that, look, the block, these voting blocks, the numbers have a big role to influence. And that is
speaking
why,
of which, I mean, when a president needs 50+1 or something
Yes.
of the sort, looking at these faces, do they have anything that they would present to the DP? And will that scuttle the Mount Kenya vote? Will it split it?
Can
Let's
I
allow
hand
Barrack.
over? Can I hand over to him?
You
they
might.
don't have anything.
They don't have
but
anything.
They have something.
Okay.
They come from a region that is popular.
Vote rich, all right.
Vote rich. But whether they have the voters with them, that is another game.
They will split the vote,
So I would want him to talk about
Barrack,
the Nandi and the rest.
All right.
But that is an area with almost 35% of the voting block. And so they will be very keen to try and
split the vote.
Not
Barrack.
split the vote. I want to tell you, you are not going to be able to split.
Let's allow Barrack to
I am quiet.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
And please don't interject.
I won't even give you a vote
note. I'm sorry, but there's an element of ethnic chauvinism in this whole thing. That you start thinking that you have got a certain numerical superiority that actually demunitizes everyone else and places you in a position where you can go sort of flaunting.
Is that not a factor here and a fact for that matter?
The Constitution of Kenya talks of 50% plus one vote. So even one small Oromo vote, one small Ogiek vote matters because you don't know when it is that you're going to get there. It's also not true that these people here have decided that William Ruto is going to be their president. The moment you look at that headline, the way it is written, and I want to believe that it is correctly written, that Mount Kenya MPs lay out demands for Ruto. It is an indication that they may or may not
support him.
Okay. They are telling him that if you want our support, these are going to be the terms of engagement and terms of endearment. And I have no problem with that as Barrack. I think everybody else should do the same. That if you want this +1 vote that is going to help you to cross the valley, you have your 35% or 40% or even 50%, but you need one more vote from elsewhere. For us to give you this one mandatory vote, these are our terms and conditions. And I think the done thing is that committees such as the one these people have formed are useful. I'm told there are 2 of them, and they are going to be negotiating. The Miji Kenda should come up with their own committees. The Rift Valley North, South, and perhaps even Central should also come up with their own committees. Western, the Lake Basin, should come up with its own committees. Northeastern should do the same. And when you are doing so, you should move away from the prejudicial thought that this is the person we are going to vote for. Go also to the other candidates, including the ones who have not yet arrived.
Okay.
And
so you agree there are others that will arrive?
Absolutely, there will be people. I might even be running for president.
Let's cross fingers for that.
Myself.
Okay.
The only problem, Mheshimiwa, is that people like myself are not electable in a country like this one. You see, you are looking at me, but you know for a fact that you go through certain very rigorously demeaning processes with the electorate, and that those processes have got nothing to do with how meritorious you are as a candidate.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to be elected in some other part of the world than here. And so I'd rather talk to those who aspire to be elected and tell them that away from the other things which they must satisfy, away from the humiliation, away from the handouts, away from other things that we can't talk about, going to Loliondo. You know, there's a place called Loliondo.
I went there.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes, I did. I am a journalist, and I actually had a glass of that. Interestingly, story for another day. I am a journalist.
So to come back, Linda, everybody should be spoken to. These people should be laying out their demands. Yeah. Not just for Ruto. That is where they have gone wrong. They should lay out their demands for every presidential candidate. And they should place these presidential candidates on the weighing scales. And in the end, determine that this is the one. And I can tell Moesh here, talk also to these other brothers of yours. In any event, I think they'll be coming to talk to you. I imagine that's why they have formed these committees. And if these committees go on to talk to Ruto in a manner that ignores the existence of other leaders in that area, such as those who are doubting them, then they get off on a hard start. Before they even go to Ruto, they must go to their own brothers and sisters and tell them, let us bargain together, let's go and see Ruto, let's go and see Mudavadi, let's go and see Gideon, let's go and see Linda and other candidates, other aspirants, and hear what they have to offer.
And we'll talk about that. It's in the spirit of coalitions today. They say it's pretty much hard for one to probably win a vote today.
You don't want me to tell you that in Muiga there is Ruriodo. You did not need to go through Muiga here in Nyeri.
Is that the one you go to?
The plant Ruriodo is there.
Is there?
And if you come
but you did not publicize this.
I will show you. No, I didn't go there because we had used it long time before.
Gentlemen, let's take a break and then we come back with more.
So we started using it much earlier than the drama around it.
And I'm telling you, the drama was really should have
gone. It is available there.
Mzee must be rich wherever he is right now after this break.
I think I could set up a
Loliondo. People are desperate, I mean, for help and all that.
We will start by giving this team. This team will give them Loliondo.
They need that.
Now, I know you want to go on break.
We are on a break.
Yeah, but as you go there...
But allow us to go on a break and then we come back. We should be off.
Good.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongee zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Ndaragwa nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 hash utunukiwe Credo double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Welcome to Nairobi Christian Center Bahati. We are an Assemblies of God Church under Reverend Fred Gitahi as a senior pastor. We are located at Bahati, Makadara area in Nairobi. We run a virtual church service with online services every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. as well as the children's services from 10 a.m., teens and youth services every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nairobi Christian Center Bahati and on YouTube Nairobi Christian Center. Be blessed.
On the next episode of The Cook-Off Show with Alex Karani.
Welcome to my show. This is the cooking show where we just
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Still with me, Communications Advisor Dr. Barrack Muluka and Member of Parliament of Ndaragwa. Yes. Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. And to you.
Yes, and you took it from me when I was just about to say this.
I humbly bring it back, but make sure it is in 2 minutes.
Is it? Let me say this. One is, I think you need to get this. This is in after many of us, the ones Barrack is referring to, ask our colleagues. We see all of you at Karen running and saying you want to become the deputy president and the rest. What is it that we are getting as a community from that president?
But why should it be about that? Why should it not be about what is it that Kenyans are getting?
I will come back to that question so that you give me another 2 minutes. It was after we made that clear mind, what is this? What is the president about? President is about delivering on the needs of our people.
Yes.
And every one of us comes from a given constituency, a given county, a given region. And it is now recognized in our constitution. So they are now responding. If you ask me, this is a little late. It's a little late, and they are trying to recraft themselves.
Right.
Remember,
Do you think it's
2019, 2020.
Okay.
In their own statements, it was not a question of demands. It was a question that Ruto is our president. So you can actually see how far back they are now going. So they are going to where they should have started. As whether that is where the others are, that's a game. So already you can actually see the shifting, ground shifting, because people back are asking, for what reason do we want to take this? That is one important thing.
Okay.
And they have to reiterate. I'm happy about what they are thinking, and I agree that we must carry everybody on board. But let me also announce here, so that, and I only say as much as I should, because I know a little bit about these positions and when you are going there. We have other meetings. Even us from that region.
Yes.
Are meeting elsewhere. So they are only
at least
trying,
we see photos around.
We will not show photos. They are only trying to copy what they know others are already doing. Because this thing requires, I have said, this is a very rich voter area. And if you are talking about a presidency, then you must, it's clear, the other time we've never been able to do it. I told you, 2013, 2017, that was really a question of ICC. And that's why I was saying, once you've been gotten through out of a river with a crocodile, when you're on the other side, you should be thankful that you dealt with the river. The crocodile was the ICC.
All right.
That was the crocodile, a very serious crocodile. Now we have to make sure that what we are putting on that, and you cannot run away from it. As we are looking for this one, because you cannot become a president without the one. You need 50 plus one.
Okay.
There is also a question of where are you starting. If you are starting with 5%, another one is starting at 35%, who is it that should be going to the other? These are realities. We are now starting, you have to become pragmatic.
Okay.
And this is the reality. So it cannot be that you are looking for what to go and extract. It has to come, and can we now discuss? These are the issues. And I can tell you, to some of us, it's very, very clear. But as I mentioned, you only get to know this towards the end of the year. If you started too early, it's like you exposed William. From 2018, everybody has been seeing, so his weaknesses are all out there. And now it is damage control. But let me also say this.
Briefly.
To my good friend, and he is the master of the language.
Okay.
Here you can only run after him. He has used the word may or may not.
Yes.
On Deputy President William Ruto. This was not the case
when they
last year, the other year, and the other year. It was never may or may not. It was he is the one coming after Uhuru Kenyatta. So the fact that you can now start hearing academians, intellectuals of the caliber of Barrack, using the words may or may not, that tells you that we have to look
that probably you're talking to these people and you're trying to get them to
we are looking elsewhere.
Let's allow Barrack to come in and counter that.
Welcome Barrack with this statement.
I try to be
at the end of this period, in our team, we will be able to give you another name.
Are there conversations to bring these others back home?
You know I'm not a politician. I'm an academician. And in the academy, one person talks and others listen. In politics, it also used to be like that. At least that was what Martin Shikuku told Stanley Oloitip in 1975, that in Parliament, one person talks. But and first I want to agree that I've said may or may not. And secondly, please recognize, if you are viewing, and even if you are in this studio, that I do not come from central Kenya. I do not know what they discuss in the innermost sanctums of their discussion forums, and I do not begrudge them of what they discuss. I only advise other Kenyans that what our brothers in Mount Kenya are doing, also go out and do it, so that you can have a negotiation with them. Previously, I was of the impression that they had, in those innermost sanctums of theirs, discussed, and they had agreed that after Uhuru, it was going to be Ruto. And I saw President Uhuru Kenyatta going around on the stamps from post to pillar and pillar to post and back again, saying yangu kumi, ya Ruto kumi. So I understood that to have been their position. Where they changed, in fact, even how they came together to decide that this is about ICC, I was not there. I did not know that it was about ICC. I'm now hearing it was about ICC. And if it was about ICC and they crossed the river, it's very good for them. But I also thought that ICC at that time was about Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. And therefore that it becomes difficult to say who helped the other to cross the river. Sometimes when I'm walking on my two legs, and I thank God that I walk on two legs, I cannot be sure which of my two legs is helping the other one to walk and cross the road. I know that both of them are crossing the road, and in fact, I stop even looking at them as separate. I see them as one and as part of me, and I say, I am crossing the road. So they crossed the road, they became two, yangu kumi, ya Ruto kumi, went away. It is their thing. And whatever they agree, we will be listening to them. We from the rest of the country, we will be waiting and saying, okay, Mount Kenya, you have now spoken,
and we follow.
But the last one, Mheshimiwa says that these people are coming out late, but they haven't come out. So
who is late in this case?
How is time measured?
It looks like theirs is all crafted, and maybe, like he says, there could be options for these ones also.
It's not in public space. Remember, we are talking about coming out.
All right.
So they need to come out. But howsoever they come out, they are going to be coming out later than these
ones.
But I'll advise them for free. Let them meet, all of them, this group and the other group, and let them agree. Let them agree that they are going with Ruto, or they are going with some person who they have yet to declare who
They
it
seem to
is.
have a dislike for Ruto, and therefore they want to lose.
If they don't,
right?
they will come to Western for us to tell them that this is what happens when you are not able to agree. Because for a long time, we could not agree in Western, and the wounds and scars are there for everyone to see. Mount Kenya seems to be going the same direction.
Is Mount Kenya going the same direction? Are we expecting to get someone from Mount Kenya? Because there seems to be a dislike for Ruto. The same dislike seems to be, mated on Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And from what we hear, at least as of now, they're the key figures. I mean, Murathe acknowledges that they're the key figures. The DP himself acknowledges that, well, the one who would be my main competitor should be Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and therefore it's healthy to have him on the other side. So, are we expecting anything, a surprise coming from Mount Kenya, or do we expect them to endorse one of these to counter the other?
One is that my colleagues are late in exiting that camp, and this is one.
You said there are talks to get them back home.
This is one of the exit strategies that they have crafted.
Right.
So that in the event that the demands are
not met, which are likely not to be.
Then they say we left because of our demands were not met, which is a good political ploy. And in politics, you have to continue looking for reasons to survive for tomorrow. So that is the exiting or coming out that I was referring to. The other thing is that we had meetings, and we continue having meetings. Even those days, we had the Muru meeting. It was really condemned by very many people, because we met at Lemuru, we met at Sagana, when we had this animal monster called the ICC.
And I'd want to know what is being done towards getting us away from the ICC.
ICC now, I don't want to talk more about it, but where we are, we now, at least we proved a point to the world. I can tell you that, and in details later. There was need to do that. And I must commend the president again, because after the 2013 elections, he went around the whole world. And again, we complained about him going, but it was necessary for us to go and perhaps improve our image out there, because it had really been dented by those ICC maneno. So I know we had meetings. I'm trying to answer my colleagues. We had meetings. But let me also tell you that the Mount Kenya community is very difficult for you to sit and say, this is what these 10 people have agreed. All you need to do is they will now, for example, Kenyans will pay attention to this. They will pay attention to another lot. What they eventually decide to do, you will never get to know until perhaps a week or 2, 3 weeks. And you have seen it before, so it's in the nature, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I'm also happy that when now we meet, we are not told these people are meeting as a tribal grouping, and we are, looked at in the wrong way for that reason. Now it is good that we can meet and discuss on the issues that relate to our people. And
but who are these meeting? Maybe
leaders, and you have many leaders.
How soon do we get to know the deliberations of these meetings?
It will come. Don't never be in a hurry.
Okay.
Siasa hii maneno usikibie hii haraka mingi.
Wanasema hawa wamechelewa.
Anasema kutoka kwa camp, wanasema wanaitwa this other side.
Kutoka kwa camp, because you see now
watatoka.
In other words, he's telling us that this is an exit
plan.
If
that's what I was saying.
But the DP does not recognize this for what it is.
Manage him as much as I have.
I'm sure he's not talking for
because I haven't finished. You are now doing what you told me not to do.
No, he's just trying to react to your statement so that you can enlighten us some more.
Yes, but he is already coming in before I could.
I was just trying to understand him a little more clearly. So continue. Now I understand him more clearly. Go on.
I'd want to assume there are very many people who are watching.
Yeah, the DP needs to read the correct statement for that meeting.
Okay.
You mentioned the issue of ODM. My colleague did mention the issue of ODM, and I also mentioned the issue of the Western Kenya, the way they have suffered over the time.
Yeah.
And I hope they have run. It seems like not yet completely out of the woods. But I wanted to say that without doubt, one of the things that you do as a presidential candidate, or as when you're learning politics, is to define who do you want to be your competitor.
Okay.
On the other side. Because in so doing, you already know his strengths and weaknesses. So with the DP saying his major competitor is likely to be Raila, it's because he understands that what is it? I don't know which one. There is quite, I use your word, dislike, for lack of a better one. The dislike levels in Mount Kenya towards Raila is still higher than the dislike that is already being generated towards him. As to where we will be towards the end of the year, that is going to be a different game, or towards the voting day next year. But crucially then, the statement comes, then the other key actor in the whole of this game is Raila Amolo Odinga today. So what would become of it if Raila Amolo Odinga was to become the patriot that he has been since 2017 and say, I've had my time, I've played my part in this country. By the way, what he has done to this country in terms of helping us define our governance is much higher than what you can do as a presidential candidate or as a president.
Is he likely to do that?
I am just saying, he has already achieved more than you can achieve as a president. Other than perhaps the ego of being a president. But I can tell you his contribution to the governance of this country way beyond what a president can do in 5 years. So if he was then to say, I am taking my retirement from that kind of politics, and I am saying this is my preferred candidate for ODM party. And that preferred candidate for ODM party becomes a candidate who is also, the level of dislike in Mount Kenya is much lower.
Okay.
That will be, the game is cut. Right. What does that mean? That one key actor, the key actor, almost like the 2002, in these coming elections, is Raila Amolo Odinga.
Well, it is an opinion, and you know, opinion is free. Facts are sacred, and they are sacred especially when they are free of opinion. We wait and see. We don't know who the candidates are going to be.
Okay. But the conversations are on, as he tells you. So
yes. I have learned to listen to persons like Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Kioni with a lot of respect, especially when they talk about what could be happening, as I said, in the innermost sanctums of their community. You have to listen for both what is said and what is not said. And you listen a lot more to what is not said. It should not surprise me that towards the end of the year or early in the new year, there should be a candidate who is going to shake the earth away from all these people
that we see,
that we are seeing, who could be decoys.
Yeah.
And that will be the Mount Kenya candidate. And I also invite you to listen to what has been said and what has not been said.
Okay.
And you want to tell me?
All right, so
Oh my.
we're likely to see so much. That is technically what it is that you told us, Mheshimiwa. And I mean, relating this to what it is that you spoke of the other time when Barrack was not here, the bedroom sessions that are crucial. Probably you need to alert him on that also.
But but let me tell you, when we learn with the former Deputy Prime Minister and former President, William Musalia Mudavadi, a gentleman I really respect.
Wycliffe,
and a gentleman I know at one time would make a president to this country.
Okay.
A question was posed to us, if I could allow you into this, by the ambassadors, because we had a meeting immediately after the results. And the question was, why are you going this way and not this way? As in fact the question was, why is it that we are not joining the former Prime Minister in rejecting the results of 2013?
Okay.
And the answer that was given is the answer that guides me up to today, that bottom line, we did what we should never have done 2007, 2008. We went the fighting route and we almost lost the country. But that was election immediately after the 2008 elections. And we said, for the sake of peace in this country, we want this outcome to remain as it is. Even if we had the different feelings, said, for the sake of this country, we will give in. And for that reason, we are not joining in saying that these elections or blah, 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 whatever it is. And that is one of the things that we must hold dear to us as a country. Anything that would help us move on without having a lot of difficulties must always be...
The Tanzanian way, why not have it in the constitution? We're having a conversation right now.
It's not going to work in our constitution because in any case, you can't write a constitution like you do the Daily Nation.
Yes.
Tomorrow and the day after. The constitution, the way it is...
But the conversation is on.
The way it is that ours is different. It's not the way it is in Tanzania. So we must come up with our own solutions that help us deal with 2022 before we think perhaps of what will happen in 2052.
Okay.
But 2022 is that we have these communities, and these communities have their own uniqueness, and the economic demands from the regions are unique, and all this needs to be merged, brought together, and then we are able to do what is it that we can do in 5 years, because you can't deal with all of them. This is the kind of debate that is informed by the difficulties we had in 2007 and all the way to 2013. And I was in the Bunge 10th Parliament. And I can tell you that it is very, very difficult to even manage parliament when you are coming from the 2007, 2008 scenario. Because you look at your colleague and remember, people from my community were killed in your constituency. So what business do I have to sit next to you? So you really have to calm yourself. And I can tell you, the former Prime Minister and the former President Mwai Kibaki, given the credit they deserve, they were able to keep, even with the quarreling of you must agree, I think the issue was concurrence. There was a phrase that we were always quarreling about in Parliament, that we needed to negotiate, and it was not just to consult, it was to consult and concur. ODM kept bringing back the word concur, and we wanted to remain at the issue of consulting. And they managed that scenario very well until we produced the 2010 constitution. Now we are there, and we need to manage ourselves into the next. So this kind of debates are good. The only thing is that it's a question of what factors are going to influence us going this way as opposed to this one. And I'm saying Kenyans today, if you ask them, top of their mind is economic performance. How can we improve the status of our economy? What is it that is going to be done? Who are these individuals that we can trust them with? And I can tell you, when that debate is at that level, when the debate is at that level, bet on an entirely new person.
Are you not scared that the conversation on us not having an election in 2022 is slowly gaining momentum, Barrack, as we close? And people say that yes, probably President Uhuru Kenyatta should be allowed more time so that he can, amicably and amply deal with the matters of COVID-19.
There is absolutely no reason why we should not have elections next year. Absolutely no reason, Linda, and I have nothing to add or subtract
to that.
The country must go to an election next year.
As we close.
That elections will be there next year.
Okay.
The talk of adding President Uhuru Kenyatta another term is neither here nor there, because he himself has said in no uncertain terms that he really wants to exit on his day. And like Kibaki 2017, I can see him at Kasarani happily handing over the mantle to somebody else.
You know, Kabila kept saying that he's okay, he would want to exit, but...
I am
Linda,
better home.
this is not DRC.
I'm better home than
this is
Congo.
Kenya.
Okay.
And this country will go to an election next year. If it doesn't, it's going to face trouble.
And I can tell you it will go, because look at Juja. The parliamentary elections are going to happen.
Yes.
And how have the members been campaigning? Because they have been campaigning very aggressively. Social media, and they recrafted the approach. So campaigns are still going on here at Juja, and we haven't even heard of them. But they will vote that day for a president. So the way to do campaigns 2022, and I'm sure our colleagues are listening, is going to be very different from how we've done them in the past.
Okay.
Even if COVID was to end in June, which is not going to be the case. And let me also say that even in these negotiations that you are seeing, including, I believe, those colleagues who may have been looking for an exit strategy, is those negotiations are also informed by the proposals contained in the constitutional amendment,
BBI.
The BBI. So these are things that are going to happen. We are having BBI, we are having elections.
An election. Honorable Member of Parliament of Ndaragwa, Jeremiah Kioni, thank you so much for your time. Communications Advisor, Dr. Barrack Muluka, asante sana for your time. Yes, allow me to close it at that. Unless you want time for parting shots, which should be 30 seconds maximum. And because I know you cannot manage that.
No, we can.
30 seconds?
We can.
30 seconds, Barrack.
Well, I have listened carefully. We started from the demands that have been made to the Deputy President, the Mount Kenya, a section of the Mount Kenya members of Parliament, and we have agreed that it is a healthy thing. Here that it is a faction, these are different faction. That is their family quarrel. I will not rear my head into it at this point. We just ask them that they should quarrel knowing that they are a family, and eventually they must agree to agree. Otherwise, they will
go the Western way.
There will be consequences. And the rest of the country, this is a wake-up call.
Right.
Wake up and also get your act together. But 2022, the country goes to an election. Other countries are holding elections.
Yes.
Why shouldn't ours hold an election?
Right.
At one point, 2-3 years ago, we had William Samoei Ruto enjoying 70-75%.
Okay.
Today, he is not even a discussion in social places.
Wow.
The name is not a discussion in social places.
You think so?
And it doesn't matter.
Can I
Linda,
just have my 30 seconds?
The country will have a president.
Correct.
It may or may not be William Ruto. The country will have a president.
Am I going to get my time still?
30 seconds.
I was just going to say that today,
ahead.
that is not a name you hear mentioned with the frequency that was happening before. Meaning, we are still not done.
We are only beginning.
Don't be in a hurry. It is going to be done, and it will be good for this country.
One day in politics, they say,
very soon,
is quite
Watch
long enough.
Lips.
You know, for many changes to play out. Asante sana, gentlemen. We get to a different conversation after this break.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongee zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Ndaragwa nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 hash utunukiwe Credo Double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Welcome to Nairobi Christian Center Bahati. We are an Assemblies of God Church under Reverend Fred Gutahi as a senior pastor. We are located at Bahati, Makadara area in Nairobi. We run a virtual church service with online services every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. as well as the children's services from 10 a.m. Teens and youth services every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nairobi Christian Center Bahati and on YouTube Nairobi Christian Center. Be blessed.
On the next episode of The Cook of Show with Alex Karani.
Welcome to my show. This is the cooking show where we just
Come slowly. Enyewe walisema ukweli. Enyewe wanawake wanakuwaga na maneno mingi. Sasa umeanza busi, umeanza kisho ya busi. Kwani yule busi de. You ready?
Wait a minute. Mimi uliniambia nikuja nichemshe kichwa busi alafu mnanipatia hizi vitu gumu na kwa kitu ya maana ninafanyaga nini?
Shika hapa.
Unadhani nitaweza kumultitask?
Siwe tunasikia kama mademu multitask.
Mimi sio mademu.
It's a very Ni chita kweli?
Ni kama gadongoro yawe.
From a distance.
I don't. Please. We were acting. Wacha mimi niendelea kukula.
Wewe endelea tu kukula, mimi nishamaliza.
Endelea kuongea. Mimi unajua kukula ndio ilikuwa imenileta. Niliwaambia welcome to my shop where we just eat. Cooking is none of my business.
People to see farming as a possibility and not as impossibility. You don't concentrate your energy, your efforts into one section of the farm. We enrich our soil so that we can produce more healthy crops which are naturally good for the people.
Kilimo Diaries, every Sunday when the clock hits 7:30 p.m. Next episode of Coffee with Movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I have that singer, inspiring man of God, Sifa Favor. Karibu man.
Asante. But I'll be honest with you, I bought my first land when I was 13, half an acre.
How much was a half an hectare that time?
Nilipigwa until the joints were not moving. Even the legs were not moving. Even the head, CKTV. I think niko na lot.
Most embarrassing moment when you're performing on stage.
Catch this story every Sunday at 8 p.m.
On the next episode, we head to Kayole and speak to Nancy about animal feed.
There's this slogan, inafinyiria biashara sana. Customer is always right. My God.
On the Grind, Monday, 7:30 p.m.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongee zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali, tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Nitajua vile nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 hash utunukiwe credo double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Welcome to Nairobi Christian Center Bahati. We are an Assemblies of God church under Reverend Fred Gutahi as a senior pastor. We are located at Bahati, Makadara area in Nairobi. We run a virtual church service with online services every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. as well as the children's services from 10 a.m., teens and youth services every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nairobi Christian Center Bahati and on YouTube Nairobi Christian Center. Be blessed.
All right, hold it. Here we are. We're back with a different conversation altogether. And our main focus today is on how we get to have persons with disability, included and, empowered in terms of them getting positions, getting to the top of the help. Remember, constitutionally, it declares that they also need to be awarded some of these positions courtesy of affirmative action. And so we discussed that this morning alongside Steve Njenga, who's a project lead, Enable Me Kenya. He will be telling us what the entity deals with and, what exactly they seek to achieve in terms of, setting up the agenda and also getting to that level where we speak of inclusion for persons with disability. And also Collins Mutundi, who's a music producer, and he will be telling us also how in his own special way in terms of music production he is also creating this space to appreciate persons with disability. So let's get into that conversation as we welcome your feedback. #Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47K. Indeed, a conversation that is worth having even as we get to have these people feel as part and parcel of the society. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. And I think we get straight into the conversation as you probably tell us what it is that a project lead does, and then we come to Collins to get to understand how in his own space he is making sure that persons with disability get or gain the respect that they deserve in society.
Yeah.
I start with you.
Thank you. My name is Steve Njenga. I am the country director for Light for the World. Light for the World is an organization that advocates for inclusion of persons with disability. And within Light for the World, we have many programs which are gearing towards that. One of them being Enable Me, which I will talk about. And all our work in Kenya is about economic empowerment. So that's what we do.
Economic empowerment?
Yes.
Across?
It is
for persons with?
Across all types of disabilities.
Okay.
We don't discriminate and say we only want to focus on this type of disability or this type of disability. And for us to do that, we build a lot of partnerships with organizations of persons with disability which are specific to those types of disabilities. So it allows us to spread across and looking for opportunities in business, because all the target groups that we work with are in business. They are either doing sales, they are doing marketing, they are farming, they are making shoes, they're making carpets, they are painting, they are financial advisors. They're cutting across.
Yes. How long have you been in existence?
Light for the World has been in existence for over 30 years. Founded in Austria, has spread across a couple of countries in Africa, in South Asia. But in Kenya, slightly over 4 years.
Okay.
So not very old in Kenya. And all the work has been around this economic empowerment and also eye health, because that's how the organization was founded, really focusing on eye health, visual impairments, but slowly advanced to realizing that there is more need for this kind of intervention, not just those with visual impairment, but also those with all other types of impairments.
Notable progress?
Notable progress indeed. Up to now, we have reached about 800 entrepreneurs in the last 2 years. these entrepreneurs doing amazing business. They are in carpentry, they are in shoes, they are in textile. And we have seen an increase, I think it's about 30% increase in employment opportunities within those, that's the same target group. What that means is that by empowering one person, they hire another person. That's how we look at impact from an employment perspective. That now you need an extra hand because we have given you an opportunity, we've given you a platform to really realize your potential, and then you hire one extra person. So that's some of the things that we can celebrate, as well building a lot of partnerships with organizations which are really embracing, including people with disabilities as employees or as service providers.
All right, Collins, we've not forgotten you, and now coming to you, many would probably ask, why do we have a music producer in conversations that pertains to empowering the persons with disability? I'd love for you to tell us what it is that you do in your own capacity and why you sit here with us today.
Well, my name is Collins Mutindi, a music producer who is trying to change the narrative in the industry. Growing up, there's this culture for music, and everyone loves music, even from the Bible. But then, music is something that is growing, and for artists, there's a culture that they've neglected a bit, and I realized and I noticed, and I took myself and I dedicated my passion to it. So I'm trying to include. Not trying, I am including the people who are differently abled. We don't call them disabled. They are differently abled into music videos and even audio. Now we are trying to even try to make audio for the deaf. So that is what I do. What informed
this decision? Maybe an experience with living probably or staying with someone, or maybe a family member, close person who is differently able?
I will say I was born a creative. My dad tells me I was a creative from when I was class 3. When I was about 3 years, in class 3, I was able to perform even for the president. So this thing continued until later on in life. After high school, I started DJing. So I was going for squad. You don't really have a gig, but you can go for a gig and borrow a session. So one time, I was coming from a gig in Westlands. And then I happened to be so late, so I couldn't find matatus for going home. At Ambassador, I tried to interact with the people there at the Ambassador stage, and I noticed like 95% of those hawkers are deaf. And so when I've been growing from DJing to music production. So when I got to music production, I decided I will include these guys, because the only entertainment they have, honestly, is reading a magazine. So I was just trying to infuse, and I must say people love it. People are embracing. And now, on my latest project, which is supposed to be released this coming week, I have included someone who is called Solomon. He has a story. He came to me. He has a very, it's a nice story, inspiring story. He was born without hands. And then when the mother noticed that he was born without hands, the mother disappeared from hospital, and he was left there with the doctors and nurses. And so someone adopted him and took him to Dagoretti Feed the Children, the organization there. And so this guy has grown, he has a very nice story. So if we infuse the stories and in music and incorporating these things all together, it comes out well.
Right, right. I know there's a musician in the country who's, I think, deaf, and and we've seen his music. It is amazing music. The likes of Jaguar have helped him, to bring out this music to life so that people can listen to that. The likes of Ludwig van Beethoven, we remember them and we say, that is indeed an incredible thing. But even as we speak of getting them into these spaces, we also acknowledge the fact that yes, this has been enshrined in the Constitution and the push is on, but there's been some level of resistance coming from their end because as society has perceived them, this has been, something that has grew in them, and they have gotten to a point where it is hard to convince them that they can wake up in the morning like any other Kenyan or like any other person and march into an office and do whatever it is other people are doing, probably much better. How is it like, first of all, getting this society to understand their capability, to pushing them beyond their limits?
Yeah, very good question. This is what we are talking about, inclusion. What Collins is doing is including people with disabilities in his entertainment business. He is not targeting his music to only people with disabilities. He's not making special music or
For
special
them.
entertainment for people with disabilities. We are not asking for special treatment for people with disabilities or preferential treatment because you want to have somebody employed with a disability in your company. You just get them, pick them, put them at reception desk. They have no work, they have no value. You just say, I have an employee with a disability. No, that's not the case. It is providing an opportunity or a platform for institutions to find out what extent can they be inclusive to people with disabilities in their core business. You find an insurance company and you ask them, how do you target customers with disabilities? Now, global percentage of a representative of people with disabilities globally is at 15%. I know that we are disputing the figures that came out in the census that was conducting recently, and there is a plan to do a census just to validate those figures. But if we still go with the 15% assumption, this means that 15% of the Kenyan populations are people with disabilities. If a household has 4 people, and you would assume that if each person is spread across just using those numbers, then we are talking about over 60% of Kenyans having a relative, a friend, or a family member with a disability. Now imagine the level of influence that that target group has to your product or service. If you are a bank and you are not inclusive, it means that someone with a disability cannot access the ATM machine, or if they come to the reception desk, the teller who is serving them has no idea how to serve them because then the client is deaf or the client is visually impaired, and you're asking him, sir, can you sign here? How are they going to sign? Or how have you been trained to help someone with a visual impairment to sign a document? So if you are not inclusive of that person, then you lose them as a customer. You lose 10 of his friends and 100 of his friends' friends and 1,000 of his friends' friends. Simply because you ignored this person or you didn't think of them as a customer. So if you would think of them as an employee, the capacity that you get bringing them on board, that they help you to really open your eyes to the market of people with disabilities, if they are consumers of your product or your services. And not just them, but the people they influence, because they are parents to children. And those children might not have disabilities. So that parent determines where the child goes, what the child does, and the products and services that the child consumes. So if you from a business perspective, we are looking at value. Our motto in Light for the World, we say that you lose, what do you lose by not being inclusive? Because we have realized that we need to change the narrative. We keep talking about, persons with disability need an opportunity. It's true, but as a business person, I need to see value. Right? So what we are trying to show now is the value. And we show this value in terms of opportunity cost. How much do you lose by not thinking about disability inclusion. And any company will want to listen to this because they want to know, for us to get to the next level of growth, what do we need to do? Maybe you need to start, because the government of Kenya has done well, and we really thank the civil society that has been advocating for the rights of persons with disability in Kenya. So ratifying the conventions of rights of persons with disability, and a lot of acts which have been passed, saying that companies should hire at least 5% of their employees.
Okay.
It's fine, it's there, but it's not enforced. 2% of your total procurement should go to people with disabilities. It's fine, it's there. Nobody's going to penalize you for not providing 2% of your procurement. You have no metrics of measuring. If you would ask for a tender that TV47 needs somebody to come and repaint your office, how do you vet painters with disabilities?
Yeah.
You have no capacity, no experience to do it. That is where Light for the World comes in.
Okay.
So if we come and sit down and you say you want to be inclusive, but you have no idea how.
How?
So let's sit down and let's build a profile of you. Maybe the way the structure is set up, it already excludes people with mobility aids. So people who have difficulty walking.
Okay, hold it right there. Let's loop in Collins and probably get to understand how then he operates, how differently he understands this, and I mean whether it's been a whole different affair having started with this angle that he has picked. For how long have you been doing this? For how long have you incorporated, persons able differently in your productions, and how has it been received? And how have you been able to work with them? Of what difference has this been?
My first project was in 2018.
Okay.
That's 4 years. And when I did my first project, I was trying. I didn't know much. I had that passion, but I was not experienced with it. But that little effort, it took me international.
Okay.
And people approached me. There are organizations that approached me. I got they took me to schools. I was connected to organizations that teach people who are differently abled. They're not disabled. I want to insist that these guys are not disabled, because being disabled is like disconnecting. These people are independent. I know a deaf person who has a family. He's a teacher. He feeds his family. So he's not disabled. He is abled differently. Solomon, this guy who was born without hands, he did a very huge wedding. It was aired everywhere. And just including these people in projects, not really music, but other in vlogs also, and in projects, is changing. Is making an overhaul in the industry, and my wish is we see it change even in programs, adverts, as he was saying. A differently abled person is not seen in Kenya as someone who has a complete and a rich culture. Because if we make it a culture of putting these people in our day-to-day, because you never know, no one, if it's not a curse to give birth to a person who is differently abled. Your cousin can be differently abled, So if we include them, that stigma of them, because I normally have a very difficult time, because there are people who send referrals, but when I approach the people, the person who is differently abled, they feel that disconnect. There's that disconnect. So they even fear, they think I want to use them and misuse them. You get my point?
Yes.
So there's that disconnect, and there's that perception that has been created that I'm trying to neutralize. And
it can be difficult, I would want to assume, because this has been in us for quite a while, and the sensitivity of this matter is equally at a higher level. Maybe we're trying to reduce this and not allow it to appear as though we are not sensitive anymore, but also just to remind us that we are equal, that like there's nothing special or different from, the rest of the people, and to paint that picture of, yes, we are human beings above everything. So even as we struggle to get that, do you suppose then that addressing the sensitivity of this matter and making sure that, these people equally welcome such scenarios, then there needs to be, a relook on the laws that have been crafted, probably have them defined differently so they can understand this. Because I can tell you, even for us, before you get a story from someone, you film them, you have to get their consent, contrary from, just filming any other person or inviting any other person on set. And so it is what has been painted for the longest of time. Yes. How do we get a shift from that before we even speak of understanding of how you get to treat them, how you get to understand them, how you get to deal with them once they're incorporated in your entity?
As you speak, very many things are coming in my mind. It's simple things that we do that makes the whole difference. In Kenya, I don't know how many languages we say we have. But I don't hear one language. I don't hear sign language as a language. Okay. So we say, we speak this language, and every tribe has its own language. But there is another one that speaks another language, which is never acknowledged anywhere. So if we would teach English and Swahili and sign language in all schools in the country, what would that do to the deaf community? It means that they can talk to anyone, anywhere. They can go to a street and ask for directions from anyone, simply because everyone else understands that language. Okay. So this narrative starts changing by things like those. That's saying, let's start teaching sign language. And then the other part is really building, educating, especially the leaders and people who are in position to understand what dynamism there is with disability inclusion, because people look up to them. What they speak and what they say, they have a lot of influence. So when a cabinet secretary says that we are mobilizing for kazi kwa vijana, and we are looking for people who are of sound mind and people who are able-bodied, those two words, they mean something different to someone else. What do you define sound mind as? And yet we have someone with a psychosocial disability. Right. So psychosocial disability, you define it as not having sound mind, or it's given different names, or you're saying able-bodied. So what does able-bodied mean? You see? The influence, and everyone, and people listen to people who are in a position of power. That is why they also have the same potential of disrupting a lot, and they can also change a lot. So that is on one side of people who we look at as the duty bearers, organizations, government entities, but then there is people with disabilities themselves. They do have different impairments, and what we try to do a lot is we try to build capacity of self-advocacy. Self-advocacy means that if you are someone with a disability selling shoes on the street, and you approach a customer and you ask them, I have nice shoes, would you like to buy? Then the customer says, no, I don't want to buy. You happily smile to the next customer and continue selling to them. You don't feel that this customer didn't buy my shoe because they thought that I have a disability, so that it is because of my disability that the customer didn't buy my shoe. That is called self-empowerment. Self-empowerment means that that person is confident enough to accept rejection of their business or service or product, and happily move on to the next customer and the next customer, just like any other person without a disability. So it means that it is not just us talking to organizations, to government, to companies and saying you need to provide opportunities. It is also driving this narrative across the different people that we work with, across all types of disabilities, and saying these are your rights. First, know what the government provides for you. After you know your rights, how do you, within your rights, move around doing your business? If you are taking your child to school, to a special school, what are you provided for? What does the government said about children that are either going to special schools, and how does that relate with your tax compliance? Because then you are provided a tax exemption.
Yeah.
So how does that relate if you are applying for a loan, if you are applying for a mortgage, if you are applying for any other opportunity in any other institution? So first, it's the knowledge, because knowledge is power.
Okay.
And then it's across both to the community of persons with disability and the government. That is why we build a platform like Enable Me, so that people can come in and ask questions. When you feel not confident, someone in the media is coming to record a story in a home where the parent has a child with a disability, and you kind of feel this feeling of uncertainty because you don't know, are you doing the right thing? Are you handling this person correctly? Are you saying things you shouldn't say? And all of a sudden you really lose the confidence and you can't get the story right. So if I am, if you are working with us, you can easily go to Enable Me and ask a question. How do you do a coverage for a child with a disability? What sort of boundaries should I not cross?
Okay.
You know?
Right.
And you have so many people responding to you there and then and saying, you can do this, you can do this, I can share with you a case study. Somebody sends you a link. It's like a big Wikipedia about disability.
It's quite a gray area, and a delicate aspect to balance. And maybe coming to you, even as you share your experience, like you rightfully put it, sometimes you go to them, you approach them, and with that goodwill to just include them and make them feel comfortable and part and parcel of society. But still, there's always that advice that there needs to be a special approach when you are dealing with persons with disability. What more have you had to struggle with to get them understand that yours is of goodwill? I mean, I remember back then, and I cannot substantiate this, and I don't know how valid those points were. As basic as, back then when we were in school and, school performances, drama festival, you could hear that, there's that one position at the top that has to be for them. Left for them, and you ask yourself, is this in goodwill? And again, if they're not given, you could see the emotions, and how disappointed they were. Technically, what you are speaking of, a scenario where I am selling this and I'm not, somebody else does not buy, then they feel like, it gets to a point where someone feels like, it's because of my situation or something of the sort. I mean, what more have you had to face, and how best do you suppose that out of your experience we can approach this, so that in as much as we're being special in our approach to them, we also do not keep raising the bar of stigmatization?
On my side, when I decided I'm going to do that, to include these guys in projects, I first of all did a research. And just like he's saying, a person who is differently abled, their education, economic and social is one of the lowest here in Kenya. And that being me connecting to them, or me trying to reach them, as I said, they think I want to use them. Maybe they have been used, or maybe there's that, they even have their own perception that, because it's a narrative that is going around. As you said, there's a chance that was being left for them in positions in schools, whether they are not performing well or they're performing well. I don't know if that's true, but according to my experience, they have that fear. There's that fear that they have, and before they give me the first. The first thing that they show me is that fear. But when they understand me, I take time. Both me and my wife have learned sign language, and we are a team, and I have a management team, I have a huge team. So when we start approaching them, and my wife is also a psychologist, so it really helps. So when we approach and they understand us, we don't just put them on project immediately. Yeah, we first of all show them how we are going to do this, if it's going to make money or if it's just for fame, you know.
Yeah.
But most of all, I try to bring them into this world of art. Like you find some of them are interested in different things, not just being on air or doing other things. I have like 2 of them who design our posters, who do graphics design. There's someone who is also like Solomon. He draws with his legs. His legs.
Wow.
Yeah, some really nice pieces. But then, when he takes the project out there to the consumers to buy, he faces what he just explained. Yeah, there's an artist called Gloria, who is my artist. He's signed under me. She's completely deaf and mute. Other than music, she's a hairdresser and makeup artist. But when she tries to, or she approaches a client, most of them, they tell, we hatuwezi deal na wewe. You see? So that brings stigma. Even she loses hope. But when she comes to us, my wife is a counselor, professional counselor. We counsel them. There are sessions. We don't just put them on projects. So we counsel. We make them, we make them understand.
Yeah, and accept.
Yeah, and accept.
Okay.
Because, you know, as people we speak, most of us don't know that this is something that is inborn. It's born in them. It's not a curse. It is how God made them.
Right. Okay, well, allow us to take a quick break, gentlemen, and then we come back to speak of that. We come back to speak of, you know, what really needs to be done in terms of incorporation of policies and laws that would probably conform us to making sure that, well, we don't just speak, but we implement and we create space for persons with disability after this break.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongeze zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Ndaragwa nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 utunukiwe Credo Double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Welcome to Nairobi Christian Center Bahati. We are an Assemblies of God Church under Reverend Fred Gutahi as a senior pastor. We are located at Bahati, Makadara area in Nairobi. We run a virtual church service with online services every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. as well as the children's services from 10 a.m., teens and youth services every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nairobi Christian Center Bahati and on YouTube Nairobi Christian Center. Be blessed.
On the next episode of The Cook-Off Show with Alex Karani.
Welcome to my show. This is the cooking show where we just
come slowly. Enyewe walisema ukweli. Enyewe wanawake wanakuwaga na maneno mingi. Sasa umeanza busi, umeanza kisho ya busi. Kwani yule yule busi de. You ready?
Wait a minute. Mimi uliniambia nikuja nichemshe kichwa busi alafu mnanipatia hizi vitu gumu na kwa kitu ya maana ninafanyaga nini?
Shika hapa.
Unadhani nitaweza kumultitask?
Siwe tunasikia kama mademu multitask.
Mimi sio mademu.
It's a very Ni chita kweli.
Ni kama gadongoro yawe.
From a distance.
I don't. Please. We were asking.
Well, still with me, Collins Mutundi, who's a music producer, and Steve Njenga, project lead at Enable Me Kenya. He's the other part. The umbrella body is Light. Light for the World, yes. And we are talking about how best as a society then we get to, inculcate the values of understanding how, people who are able differently should be treated as part and parcel of society. And we also get them to acknowledge that indeed they are part of the society. And speaking of acknowledgement, and, while we were on a break, we're just having a conversation on how we get these individuals at these key entities that we speak of. For instance, we pinpointed the media, and we said, well, according to what it is, Steve says that he is yet to see, a top journalist who's a person with disability. And reality is that they are there, even across the world. But brings me to the question of, we could speak as society, and we could even lay the ground, and we could even have policies to make sure that this happens. But just how many of them are out here to acknowledge what it is that has been said for them? I'll tell you this for free. Most of the advertisements, job advertisements I've seen in the media, there's always that clause of women and persons with disability will be given.
Encouraged.
Yes, are encouraged and will be given priority, so to speak. By that morning you march into the interview, or you go for the interview, you realize that you will not see any of them that has come out for that. And then leaves us wondering, are they not there? Are they not, in existence? Don't we have persons with disability that have studied for media and all these things? So is it because it is the case, or there's some level where they still are in denial? They still feel like, they do not hold a chance, or, they do not. We have one actually around here, and so we ask ourselves, what could be the driving force to get them coming out?
Yeah, very good question, which takes me back to how this whole came about. If you look at education and our schooling system, right now I've seen the government trying to push that we reduce on the special schools, and where a child can be able to function with assistance, what we look at as reasonable accommodation in a regular school, they don't have to go to a special school. And if you look at the statistics, in all the public universities in Kenya, we have less than 400 students. That is a staggering number. 400, across all years, from year 1 to year 6, across all public universities in the country. What does that tell you of the education that, how many people with disabilities are even coming to the university level to study any program? 80% of those are in KU, and they are in KU doing special needs. Because there has been this narrative, I don't know who came about with it, that if you are someone with a disability and you are fortunate enough to go to the university, go to KU and do special needs. But you can do whatever you want to do. You can do engineering, you can take law, you can go to the media industry. And the question is, if you go to media school and you are a student who is deaf, you have needs. What those special needs are needs to be provided for by that institution. We call it reasonable accommodation. It means that you are making the level playing field. If I have difficulty with movement, you make sure that in the space when I come to your school to study, pavements are well marked.
Yeah.
I can access any place I need to go without having to ask somebody else, can you help me here, can you help me there? Because what equal rights also advocates for is independence. So you asked a question about what needs to be done and why are we not seeing people with disabilities coming up and taking up these opportunities. It is because they have been marginalized for a long time. They didn't get an opportunity to study for what you're looking for. If you'd say you want a creative, or you want somebody who can do IT work, and you advertise for that position only for persons with disability, you don't find the kind of person that you're looking for with the kind of experience that you're looking for. Because if the opportunities for them to go to school and study that are not there, and the schools that are there are not inclusive. My accountant is deaf. He studies at KCA for his degree. What the requirements are for him to study at KCA is you are deaf, come to college, bring your own sign language interpreter for all the sessions, and you have to pay them. So the rate of a sign language interpreter is 5,000 shillings a day. So he pays his sign language interpreter 5,000 shillings for the sessions that he has to be with him, and then covers his transport. So what I mean by level playing field means that for any other student without a disability, they only need to pay school fees at KCA to study accounting. My accountant will pay school fees and pay his sign language interpreter. On top of that, 5,000 shillings, if he needs him 3 days a week, times 4 weeks, that is even more than the school fees, which is something that the school should provide for him to study. That is what I mean by level playing field.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So how many people would like to study accounting and are deaf and cannot afford a sign language interpreter for any college they go to?
Yeah. Very much.
No institution will provide you with a sign language interpreter, very few if there are any. That is what marginalization is.
Yes,
it means that somebody else who has visual impairment and they go to JKUAT to study, and the lecturer is writing on the chalk, on the board, then this guy can't see. How is he expected to study? And then the industry is saying, oh, we are looking for people to hire, and we don't have them. But you didn't provide an opportunity for them to study.
All right, this is interesting. Just how much more has been done towards, creating these opportunities as you get, or as you delve into these waters even more? Do you suppose there's a lot that is being done at the level of the society in terms of the government to push for the same? I mean, there are very many institutions that support producers out there, very many institutions that support music out there, and I want to believe that you work with them. Do you suppose that when you go and speak of what it is that you do to them, there's some level of help, assistance, and a push towards ensuring that whatever it is that you're doing is well received with the society, or plays out well as would be expected, to ensure that again these people will have that space?
Now, unfortunately, there's no organization that currently that is supporting me. I am well known in the industry, the music industry. Before I became a producer, I was a DJ, then an artist manager, and I managed very huge artists that are here in Kenya. But then, when I mentioned to some of them that I want to include sign language into my music video, they disconnected.
That is now in their own videos. So this is
It was supposed to be in a project with a very huge artist in Kenya who I was managing. So immediately I mentioned that, and remember this guy, I was getting in free studio sessions. I was getting him free collabos. I was getting him free transport. Everything I was catering for. But immediately I mentioned that, he disconnected completely. He stopped even receiving my calls. And putting sign language into music video is not easy.
Yeah.
And so before I put sign language in music video, I was in a gig that I organized in Gilgil, and I had taken this big artist there. And there's this street boy who came to me and told me, I can sing, and I want you to give me a platform. But me looking, I was judgmental that day. He's shabby and he was not just looking right.
Yeah.
And at some point I thought he wanted to maybe take my phone or something. And unfortunately also on that day, the program was not going as it was supposed to go. And for me to feature hiyo maneno, I decided, do you have a CD? Give it to DJ. Panda stage very fast. Do you know that guy? He killed the show. He killed the show. And so I took his number. He didn't have a phone. I took his friend's number. And after a month or so, he contacted me. And on the same day, Magic Senga was coming from Uganda. And so I told Magic Senga, pick someone in Nakuru.
Yes, come along with them.
Come along with him. And I put this guy in studio. This guy is now a big artist in Kenya. Yeah, that is a story that I don't talk much about it, but because he talks about it and he gives credit where it's due. And so when I was trying to put sign language into music video, this guy disconnected. And so I don't have a big artist, and now I can't call media station. Media, you guys are funny. If you don't have a big artist,
it's business, so, my brother. It is business.
I know. And so I settled for less. I started from scratch, and I decided I'm going to do now cultural music. I want to fuse now cultural music, Benga, Kikuyu. It was Kikuyu and sign language. And I do a standard video. And the frequency, because I know the sound, media station, there's that sound that they want.
Yes.
Put a proper sound. Not that Mugithi, proper sound, Kikuyu, and a mix sign language and gospel. Do you know, people from all over the world, they were calling.
Yes.
Not because of that song is Kikuyu or gospel, because of sign language.
Yes.
And I was going through some issues that time. I didn't have a proper camera. It's a camera, but not crispy. It was not a very crispy video. But I'm telling you, that thing took us
to another level.
These guys who are denying to put these guys into videos.
Are now coming.
And for that video, I only put sign language on the chorus only, because it was difficult merging
to do the entire.
The entire. But now we do that. Yeah, we have grown. We have learned. There's the new Kenyan sign language, and unfortunately, even the Bible, most of 80% of deaf in Kenya are Christians, and unfortunately, even the Bible has not been updated to the new Kenyan sign language.
Wow! All right. I mean, that's commendable, so to speak. We have an entertainment show most of the Fridays, and so we hope to host some of your artists, and we see how different this appears and how interesting. I mean, you still can enjoy the music, so I don't know why it should be.
The music, it's normal audio.
It's normal audio. It's just that there's that sign language interpreter.
And now in this coming project, which I'm supposed to launch any day, the management will decide it's ready. The management will decide on which day next week.
Okay.
We have used the best camera that we have in the world.
Yes.
We have designers who came to it's a proper like the international stuff, Designers came on set, makeup artists came on set, and not just one sign language interpreter.
Wow.
I have like 7
with the song
in one song.
Maybe that should be launched here. I'll speak to my producer, so at least we also get to have the feel experience of what it is that Collins does. We celebrate you for that. And now, as we come to a close, amid all this push for inclusion, this push to ensure that there's recognition and appreciation for that matter. Sometimes it gets to a point where there are advantages and disadvantages to the same. Yes. And I think even with the talk of women, you know, affirmative action, push the women, it gets to a point where, again, the women themselves say, you know what, we do not need to be endorsed. We can go out there and do this for ourselves. And therefore then you see that that push for affirmative action goes lower and lower and lower. Do you suppose, are you not scared that we're going to get to that point and maybe it's going to be a disadvantage as we close?
Yeah, good that you mentioned about affirmative action. I was reading an article the other day, somebody saying, because there was an award given to the best female engineer of the year. They're like, why does it have to be female engineer of the year? Can't it just be engineer of the year?
Engineer of the year, now you see it.
In the case of disability, we are very, very far from where we need to be. There are structures which need to be reset. There are structures which need to be overhauled, the education sector being one of them. Because with education, you create the biggest impact for this generation and the next generation. It means that any child born in this country with any type of disability, they have a place for them. Any type, whether they don't have a limb, whether any type of disability, even psychosocial disabilities, they can go to a school, get educated by a properly trained teacher, and they exploit their potential. Right now, you have a child who is taken to a school. That child has a visual impairment, so they are low vision. It means that they can't see quite far. And because they can still see a few things, their parents will not take them to a special school. They are taken to a regular school. But in that regular school, they need some level of accommodation to be able to play in the same level as every other kid. It means that the teacher needs to either bring them closer to the board. The teacher needs to spend more time with this child than the other kids. And it means that if they are doing an exam, that they are given a bit more time. Right now, children across the country were doing their exams. What reasonable accommodation measures were kept by the government for children with slow learning disabilities, for children with difficulty with visual impairment? What reasonable accommodation needs are provided? It means that you create a bar which automatically eliminates so many other people. And then on this other hand, set up policies and say you need to hire 5% of your employee portfolio as people with disabilities. But even if you would allocate 5% to every single institution in this country, you still wouldn't get them.
All right.
You see? So what we are saying is that with disability inclusion, we are still very, very far in terms of applying it. And the government has a major role in it, as well any other institution. So the government always supports the industry. So if the government is supporting the industry and the private sector alliance says that from now onwards, we need the government to do this for us to allow us to support people with disabilities.
All right. You know? Thank you so much, Steve Njenga. My producer was guiding me that we are almost coming to a close, that I missed the very last point. But then again, it's all about us getting to the drawing board and understanding how best we can have persons with disability included in all the activities in society. I think that's really a commendable thing. And so as we close it, unless there's something you want to say in 30 seconds, I think you'll allow me to close it at that as we look forward to host you again.
What I will say is just disability is just a perception.
It's in the mind.
It's just in the mind. These people can do things that you cannot do.
Right.
Or they can do better than you.
And we have seen that over time. We have definitely seen that over time. Why don't we give them that space? Why don't we show them that indeed they are valuable?
If everyone in the world was a marathoner and you couldn't run, you are the one with a disability in that world.
That's true. That is true. But that does not mean that you actually are.
It's just that everyone else, because they are a marathoner and you can't run, they don't give you an opportunity because then you can't run. Right. So if everyone was a Kipchoge and you're not,
then you're not.
And let's not forget that sign language is a language just like Luya Kikuyu, Kalenjin, or Germany.
Yeah. High five to our sign language interpreters here, Anne and the other one is Mapesa.
Mini
Mbesa. I always, I don't know where this. I always find it so hard. Every time I have Mini on set, I have to write it down so at least I can. Because I keep asking her, Mini Mbesa. That's very unique, but very nice. I know names. So yes, that's very it. And we close it at that. I'm sure they're all passionate about this. Most of the times you see how passionate they are when we're talking these matters. Yeah. They were looking at our poster yesterday and reacting to that, and so we say thank you so much to them also, and to you for keeping us company. We all keep talking about this. It is incumbent upon us as a society to bring that shift.